Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Tsunade stops her support for Naruto after the Sasuke Retrieval mission part 1. Before I start, please do support. For more amazing content and comments for part 2, do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. It was a quiet morning in Konoha. Most of the ninja teams were away on missions and the 5th Hokage Tsunade had been forced to send genin to hunt after Sasuke Uchiha and Orochimaru's agents. Very few people knew that with this new development a certain faction in Konoha had decided that something needed to be done to protect the Konoha's supremacy over the other ninja villages. Danzo Shimura, former teammate of the late 3rd Hokage, stepped out of the Hokage office, 2 of his agents close behind him. The old man had an uncharacteristic smile on his face. Phase 1 was complete. A few days later, Naruto slowly opened his eyes and stared at a white ceiling. He looked around and found white walls and several empty beds. Damn it, I'm in the hospital again. He tried to remember how he got here, and images from the fight at the Valley of the End and of Sasuke floated into his head. He shuddered when he remembered what he had been forced to do to finally beat the Uchiha. Naruto let the fox out to play, after Sasuke had almost killed him by piercing him with the Chidori. The beating the blonde Jinchuriki dished out after that had been extremely brutal, but Naruto was relatively sure that Sasuke had survived and that he hadn't caused any permanent damage. Then he heard footsteps on the corridor outside his room and excited chattering from someone he knew. He couldn't understand anything, but a minute later Sakura entered his room, a grim look on her face. Hey Sakura, hey Naruto. She walked towards him. Is Sasuke alright? Is he here too? Sakura stopped, standing right next to him. Yeah, he is in another room and it looks like he will be okay. If Kakashi-sensei had found you 2 an hour later, he might not have made it. And the others? What about Choji, Neji, Kiba, Shikamaru and Lee? They will live. Even though Choji and Neji were a really close call, Naruto nodded relieved and remained silent for a second. Naruto. What happened during the fight between you and Sasuke? The Uzumaki paled and looked to the ground in shame. He didn't want to tell Sakura how out of hand their fight had become, and especially not that Sasuke had used the Chidori to put a huge hole into his chest. After a moment of contemplation he decided to downplay what had happened. He grinned at the pink-haired girl and rubbed the back of his head, looking apologetically. I'm sorry Sakura-chan. Sasuke and I got a bit carried away, but you know how it is. It may look like we hate each other's guts, but in the end none of us really tried to harm the other. Naruto, I saw Sasuke's injuries. You almost tore him apart. Naruto looked at her worriedly. He had no idea what to tell her. It's true, isn't it? The way her voice broke and her slight stutter immediately told him that something was very, very wrong. Sakura-chan? Naruto looked at her face, and he saw tears and that she slightly trembled. I didn't want to believe it at first, but you really are the fox, aren't you, Naruto? Naruto was surprised at first. And then terrified. What are you talking about, Sakura? She turned away from him. I don't know for how long you impersonated my teammate, but you will pay for what you have done, Kyuubi. Sakura, I am not the Kyuubi. It's me, Naruto. I am sorry that I hurt Sasuke so bad, but I had no other choice. The pink-haired girl just shook her head. Even Tsunade-sama has seen through your deception. You are finished, demon? If it was even possible, Naruto became more frightened. What was she talking about? There was no way his surrogate mother believed this, too. Was there? Asked Sakura-chan. He fell silent, unable to form words. Sakura walked away without saying anything else towards her teammate. Shortly before reaching the door to the hospital corridor she called out. Umbu. A team of Konoha Umbu entered the room. They ignored the pink-haired genin and went right towards Naruto. Naruto offered barely any resistance as they shackled him and placed chakra suppression seals on him. Then the Umbu dragged Naruto away and Sakura just stared after them. A few hours later Shino Aburame, Hinata Hyuga and Tenten were summoned to the IT department. They were the only ones of the Konoha 12 who were either hospitalized nor already informed of the complete situation. Yuhi Kurenai was currently explaining things to the rookies. He has the Kyuubi sealed inside of him. Inside, Hinata was screaming, but she tried to remain as calm as possible on the outside. Yes, the council believes the beast has been manipulating him for quite a while now. They think that under Danzo he can at least still be used as a power to defend the leaf. Tenten asked, isn't it strange that Lady Tsunade so far treated him like a little brother or son and now she pretty much throws him away? I mean, he just completed his mission successfully. No innocent was hurt or killed. I don't know about that. I guess Lady Tsunade was convinced by the council's arguments. The usually silent Shino spoke up for once. Can we talk to Naruto-san? He may be a monster, but he still was a comrade for quite some time. I don't know, it may be a bad idea for you to meet him now. Hinata looked towards her mentor with pleading eyes. Please, Kurenai-sensei. There is something that I have to do. Kurenai looked at Hinata and sighed. She couldn't deny the girl such a heartfelt request. She shrugged and motioned the ninjas to follow. The Jonin they met directioned them to a dark-looking corridor with several cell doors. Kurenai knew that there was no way to contact whoever was in the cell in question, so they had to wait. Luckily for them, it took only 10 minutes before the cell door opened and Kakashi stepped out. He had a grim look on his face. On his metal-reinforced gloves was some blood. Through the cell door they could see Naruto. He was chained to a chair, his chest was bare and sweaty. He had his head lowered but the people outside could still see that he was crying silently, and his face was bruised and bloody. Hello Kurenai. What are they doing here? Kakashi asked pointing towards the group of rookies. Hi Kakashi. They want to talk to Naruto. I don't think that is a good idea. They should realize that Naruto is not who he pretended to be. He is the beast that killed countless of our leaf shinobi and my sensei. Kakashi-san? Kakashi was surprised to hear the timid Hinata Hyuga speak up. Please let me talk to Naruto. I'll like you have a score to settle with him. Kakashi looked surprised to the determined-looking Hyuga girl. His stupid act made me fall for who he pretended to be. I wanted to give him a piece of my mind. Please Kakashi-san, I need to do this to get over him for good. Kakashi nodded. Her argument made sense. Alright. But Kurenai, or I will stay with you. And no. I have to do this alone. Kakashi contemplated this for a minute, then he nodded and motioned for her to enter the cell. Trembling Hinata entered the cell and closed the heavy steel door behind her. Then she poured some chakra into the seals that covered all the walls and the door itself, and they began to glow in a soft blue light. She briefly activated her Byakugan. The seals were clearly working. Even with her special eyes she couldn't look outside, and she was sure that as long the seals were active no sound would be able to go into or out of the cell either. This filled her with a strange calm. She had all the time in the world to do what needed to be done, and no one would be able to intervene. She couldn't really believe her luck having managed to be left alone with Naruto, and she wasn't going to let this chance go to waste. Hinata turned towards Naruto. Tears were still running down his cheeks. She walked towards him, sat down in his lap and embraced him in a hug to comfort him. Normally Hinata would have never been able to do anything like this, but now in the safety of the cell she found the courage she needed to help him. Hinata? Naruto was surprised. The girl had just talked about her having a score to settle with him, and now she was hugging him. In a compromising position no less. Naruto-kun, it's okay. I'm sorry about the things I said, but I really needed to talk to you. Naruto registered somewhere in his mind that she wasn't stuttering, but that was rather unimportant right now. Naruto leaned into the girl's shoulder and cried. A few minutes later Naruto had recovered enough that he was able to talk again. Sakura and Kakashi-sensei both think that I'm a monster, the Kyuubi. Naruto-kun, I have been watching you for a long time. I know that you are not a monster, but everyone else seems to think so. No Naruto-kun, not everyone. I heard Shikamaru got arrested after he attacked the first group of Umbu, who were coming to get you, even though he was hospitalized and still completely out of chakra. Naruto's eyes got wide and then he snickered. That seems so unlike our great master strategist. Hinata smiled at this. She had at least lightened his mood a bit. Yeah, it really does. Will he be alright? Hi. Shikamaru-san is the heir of the Nara clan. Everybody says he will be released shortly, because you only tricked him into helping you. With that Naruto's face fell a bit again. After a few moments of silence he spoke up again. Hinata, was what you said out there true? Did you really have a crush on me? And no Naruto-kun. I still have crush on you. Naruto just stared for a moment. I'm sorry. You are so nice to me and I never really noticed you. Naruto, as I said, I watched you for quite some time and I know that you can be a bit thick-headed sometimes. Naruto wanted to protest at first but then decided against it and let her continue. I knew if I wanted you to notice me I would probably have to make the first move, but I was always too shy to do that. So it's not your fault. Naruto smiled. Thank you, Hinata. Naruto, I need you to promise me something. Okay Hinata, what is it? Naruto, I need you to trust me, please. Say you will promise me what I want from you. Naruto was a bit taken aback by that, but he decided to trust her. Alright Hinata, I will promise you whatever you want. You have to promise me that you will run away from the village and not be captured again. What? No way Hinata. I can't just leave the village. My only remaining friends are here. Here is my home, and it is my dream to be Hokage one day. Naruto, I'm not saying that you can never return, but as things are right now you need to get away. The village council is against you and they will turn you over to Danzo if they have their way. Yet Kakashi mentioned him. Who is he? He is one of the village elders. My father said he was involved in programs about conditioning soldiers, switching off their emotions and making them completely obedient, and he said he was the right man to make you into a reliable tool. Naruto shuddered at hearing the phrase. What about Tsunade-bachan? Is she really against me? As far as I have heard, yes, which seems kind of strange. But Naruto-kun, even if she is somehow influenced or blackmailed, please let me or Shikamaru, your friends, handle that. You need to get away for now. Alright. I promise you I will flee from the village. Thank you. Hinata smiled happily. Now I will get those chains off you so you can get out of here. She began standing up from his lap but then decided otherwise and sat back down. Naruto, I'm sorry, but there is something I must do. I know it is selfish, but it is something I always wanted and I might never get another chance again. And if you don't like it, please just see it as your payment for me for helping you escape. Naruto noticed that her stutter was back and nodded dumbly. What is going on? What is she talking about? Then Hinata leaned closer to him, grabbed the back of his head and kissed him on the lips. Naruto was surprised first but then kissed back. After a few moments Hinata leaned back again, ending the kiss. She was happy to find that Naruto was a bit surprised about what had happened, but not angry. Hinata stood up from Naruto and pulled a bunch of papers from a pocket. I made a small detour to a weapon shop to get these after my father roughly informed me of the situation, and told me that I was to meet Kurenai-sensei here at the IT department for a thorough explanation. They are specialized exploding tags for opening doors or breaking stuff like chains. She put one of the tags on the metal ring around one of Naruto's wrists, and stepped back. Hinata was silently chanting in her head, "Please don't blow his hand off. Please don't blow his hand off." Then she made a hand seal while saying "Katsu." And the tag went off. The small explosion rang loudly in the tiny cell and Naruto shortly screamed in pain, but his wrist was only bleeding lightly and his hand was free. Then they repeated the process for his other hand and his feet, and finally Naruto was able to stand up from the chair unbound. He stretched his limbs a bit, and then captured Hinata in a hug. "Thank you, Hinata. It is thanks to you that I still believe that I have friends here." Hinata was blushing heavily now. Somehow she had gotten a lot more nervous having close contact with him now that he was free. "And Naruto-kun, you were the one who helped me change for the better. I will always be there for you." There was a small pause while Naruto continued to hold Hinata tight, but after a while he let her go. "Say, Hinata, what will you do when I run away from the village?" Hinata looked sad when he mentioned that and answered, "I would like to come with you, but if I do that I will most likely never be able to return again. And like you, I promised myself to change my clan and get rid of the caged bird seal. If no one except people I trust like Kurenai-sensei, Shino and Tenten who were with me notice me helping you, I would like to stay here and fulfill that promise. But once that is done, and you still cannot return, I promise I will find you." She looked up into his eyes expectantly. "At least if you don't mind." Naruto was smiling now. "No, I really wouldn't mind that. I want to see you again. Naruto-kun, I think we wasted enough time already. We have to get you out of here. Do you have any kind of plan?" "I will go out first and try to disable Kurenai-sensei and any other jonin who might be there. Then you will come out and help me against Shino and Tenten. From there you will be on your own. But I hope you can make it out of the building before anyone else notices you're missing. Are you ready, Naruto-kun?" Naruto grabbed the back of her head and pulled her in to kiss. When he pulled back he smiled at her and said, "Now I'm ready." Hinata just blushed furiously and nodded. A few minutes later Hinata opened the door only a gap wide so that no one could look inside and exited the cell. She looked to the ground to hide her face with the help of her hair, but with her Byakugan she could see that only Kurenai, Shino and Tenten had remained in front of the cell. Thanking her lucky stars the girl continued her plan. Kurenai saw Hinata, she had her head lowered and was sobbing audibly. Kurenai went over to Hinata, got on one knee because of the height difference, and hugged her. She noticed how the girl put her hands around her neck. And then suddenly her world went black. But she still heard Hinata's call, "Now Naruto." Then the cell door burst open and Naruto stormed out directly at Shino. He pulled his right fist back to possibly take Shino out in one strike, only to notice that Shino made no moves to defend himself, and was calmly expecting the strike. Naruto stopped. You are not defending yourself?" "That is correct." "Why?" "While I don't wish to oppose the village because of my duties as clan heir, I still see you as a comrade and friend. Not mentioning that I do not wish to anger my teammate Hinata, so logically being taken down by you, while you successfully escape would be the best possible outcome of the situation. So you know what we are doing?" After what Hinata-san said earlier, that was the most logical thing to occur. "Though I am interested in how she managed to get you free." Naruto winced at that but didn't answer his question. He looked towards Tenten. "Will you try to stop me?" "Nah, I don't think I will. You have changed Niji for the better, and for that I really owe you." Naruto just grinned and put one hand on the back of his head. Now there were two more people he could trust. "Thanks, guys." Hinata stepped forward. "Thank you, Shino and Tenten. Can you please say Naruto broke free with chakra from the fox if you are questioned? I would like to be able to stay in the village." Shino nodded. "I am glad I will not lose a teammate today." Tenten agreed too. Then Shino spoke up again. "Naruto-san, may I ask you to punch me as you originally intended? I would prefer it if this looked convincing." After one more round of convincing Naruto, he punched both of them once in a way so that they hit the wall, knocking them out cold. But before Naruto did the same to Hinata, the cell next door opened a bit. Then they heard the voice of Ino Yamanaka. She already stood half in the door ready to leave the cell but had turned around again to face inside. She hadn't noticed what had happened outside. "I will think about what you said, Shika. Just stop attacking Umbu from now on, please." And then Ino fell into an unconscious heap, because she hadn't noticed Hinata stepping behind her, grabbing her neck. Naruto stepped past Hinata and Ino's unconscious form into the cell. "You okay, Shikamaru?" "Naruto. Yeah, I am okay. Just leave me here, they will let me go after a while." "But you have to get out of here now." "Sure thing, by Shikamaru, and thanks for attacking those Umbu for me." "Wait. Huh. Naruto, what is your plan?" Get out of the building and run like hell." "Naruto, that will never work. The Leaf has specialized tracking teams, you will never escape them. Especially outside the village once they find your scent." "Then what should I do?" "Grab as many clothes as you easily can from the people here, then get out of the building and get into a back alley. Create a bunch shadow clones and give them most of the people's clothes and your own clothes. Keep the clothes of one of the people to yourself. Then you and your shadow clones all henge into different people and spread out in different directions. To confuse anyone following me by enhanced smelling, right? Right. But the problem remains that once you are out of the village your pursuers will have it easy, and even if they have to follow each trail separately, your chances are grim. So, it would be best if you could hide inside Konoha for a while. A place protected by seals, so that nothing like the Hokage's seeing orb or the Byakugan can find you. The only problem being that there is no such place. At least none that is empty, since hiding in a clan's home is a bit suicidal. That would be correct if the clan I am thinking about still had any other members. What are you talking about? Well, it's just a theory of mine. But if you really belong to that clan, then you could easily get access to the compound by wiping a bit of blood on the seal on the compound gate. You think I belong to a clan? As I said, it is just a theory, but right now I think this is your best bet. What clan are you talking about? I know there is no Uzumaki compound in the village. That is correct. But I am talking about the Namikaze. Behind himself Naruto could hear a gasp from Hinata. Who are they? You really should remember that Minato Namikaze was the 4th Hokage. Oh, remember, if you get access to the compound, create a new shadow clone and give him all of your remaining clothes at best. Your trail must not end there or they might find you. The compound is north of the Western Plaza, the first big mansion on the left. Now get out of here. Right. Naruto and Hinata collected all easily accessible clothes like jackets and socks, and Naruto put them in a bag he had found on Kurenai. Then he said goodbye to Hinata, who had to convince him to knock her out like the others. He henged into Kurenai and began his search for the exit. Luckily none of the other jonins paid him any real attention. After he had left the building, Shikamaru's plan went incredibly smooth. Half an hour later Naruto stood inside the Namikaze compound in front of the mansion door. He was only wearing his underwear at this point, but after what happened that day Naruto couldn't care less. Only 5 minutes after he and his clones had spread out he had noticed the frantically searching Umbu groups. But luckily Naruto remained level-headed and slowly walked towards his destination, avoiding all trouble. It really helped that from time to time the Umbu noticed one of his clones and got into a wild chase with it. And the compound gate had opened right after he had spilled a tiny bit of blood on it. But now, after being in safety, the thing that worried him most was that he didn't have the key to the mansion. Even though he thought it useless, he went to the door and pushed, and it immediately opened. Naruto nearly smacked his head. Of course, if anyone made it past the seals, any lock would be useless, so why bother with a key at all? He dragged himself into the mansion and began exploring. He made it only as far as one room. He had found the living room, laid down on the couch there, and immediately fell asleep. I am related to the 4th Hokage. This was the thought which woke Naruto up the next morning. He immediately began searching the compound with the help of a bunch of shadow clones. He didn't have to search long. In a well-furnished office lay a paper which contained the family tree of the Namikaze. On the bottom of it were 2 names, Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze. On the paper lay a smaller note with 2 names written in a fine handwriting, Naruto/Naruko. On the desk next to the paper with the family tree stood a picture with 2 people in it, a blonde male he recognized from the Hokage Mountain and red-headed woman. Naruto started crying a little. He had found out who his parents were. The rest of the day was spent with searching the rest of the house. On the attic he found a box with clothes that fit him. Unfortunately the clothes were for the most part completely free of orange, and had a lot of blue on them, but Naruto didn't really have much to choose from. There was a big library with jutsu, scrolls and ninja books, but Naruto ignored this for now. He found a little well in the completely overgrown garden, so water was not going to be a problem, but there was no electricity, and no food. Luckily someone else solved the second problem for him. On the next morning Naruto found a blinking seal in the office which looked strangely similar to a letter. So Naruto went down in front of the mansion door and to the mailbox. Its entrance slot was outside of the seal, but it could be easily accessed from inside. Naruto found a single scroll, which he soon identified as a storage scroll. After a quick search of the well-organized library he found the description how to open such scrolls, and a few tries later a big bag came into existence containing a lot of noodles, meat, spices and 3 big bottles of drinking water, even though he didn't need them. Naruto once again silently thanked those who still supported him. From there on every few days there would a new scroll for him with new supplies. Later that day, when thinking about how people could be able to sniff him out, he remembered something. Kukijo's no jutsu. In a puff of smoke an orange toad appeared. Hey Gamakichi. Hi Naruto. How's it going? Not that well. Say Gamakichi, Jiraiya is the toad sage and I am contracted to the toads. Now if he wanted to contact, find or even catch me, what could he do? Well, he would most likely be able to do all of those things. I think that Ma or Pa would agree to reverse summon you if he wished it. Naruto was a bit shocked, but he had feared that much. Then I want out. I can't risk him catching me or finding out my location, even though I don't really know if he's with me or against me. Wait a second, I will ask Ma and Pa about that. He disappeared in a cloud of smoke and reappeared a few minutes later. They said they will allow you to put the contract on hold. You won't be allowed to summon us during that time. Jiraiya will be allowed to send you messages but not to reverse summon you or ask us about your location. If you summon one of us, then the contract will be in full effect again. Is that okay with you? Yes, sounds good. Gamakichi? I will miss you, buddy. I will miss you too, Naruto. I hope you will be able to resolve whatever there is between you and the old geezer soon. I hope so, too. And then Gamakichi vanished again. Over the following week he made a bunch of discoveries. First of all was that he finally realized the special ability of his clone jutsu to transfer the clone's memories to him. But even though he got the memories of the last clone running from the Umbu 2 days after his arrival in the mansion, he only recognized the importance of this discovery after finding it mentioned on scrolls about jutsu training exercises. Then he found out that his mother was the former Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed fox from some correspondence of her with her family in the whirlpool. If he had any ill will towards his father for making him a Jinchuriki at all, it vanished with this bit of information, because it was a family thing apparently. On the third day he finally found out what the strange contraption was which he had found in the cellar. It was an experimental device which was able to store chakra and convert it into electricity to provide it to the rest of the house. Naruto had definitely no problem with giving a bit of chakra to the thing, and from there on he had lighting as well as running and even warm water. 2 days later he found the plans for the seals around the compound. Before he had tried to avoid the gardens out of fear of being seen from one of higher places in Konoha by looking over the compound wall. But the seal system contained a genjutsu which would always show outsiders a fixated, even outdated view of the mansion. The place was soundproof too. That meant he would be able to train outside of the mansion without any troubles. So he did. With several hundred shadow clones mostly. On the 6th day Naruto decided to pay the fox a visit. He got into a meditative stance in the middle of his living room and concentrated on entering his mindscape. Several minutes later he stood in the familiar dark sewer in front of the gates holding the nine-tailed fox. Hey stupid fox. What do you want, brat? Well, furball, I found out that the 4th Hokage was my father, and that my mother was your last Jinchuriki. But that opens up a bunch of new questions. First of all, how the fuck did you get free from my mother? TCH, I won't tell you. Arg, so is it correct that first my mother died after or because of childbirth, through that you got free somehow, and then my father died while trying to seal you? No, they both died together after I impaled them on one of my claws. You are just trying to piss me off now, aren't you? Maybe. Listen, I really want to know what happened. So if there's anything you want apart from getting free or destroying Konoha, maybe we can compromise. I will think about it. On the last day of the week Naruto made one final discovery. There were many jutsu in the library, but there was one jutsu which really stood out. It provided means to both attack and defense, as it enabled somebody to easily escape dangerous situations. Naruto knew that if he wanted to leave Konoha like he promised, this would be the jutsu to learn. His father's signature move. 3 months after Naruto first entered the compound, Naruto was sick of staying in the confined space of the mansion and decided to bring his plans to leave Konoha into action. When he stepped outside of his clan compound he was hinged into a regular chunin. On his back was a giant storage scroll. He was happy when he had found the 3 big storage scrolls one day. While normal storage scrolls could only contain one item, these big scrolls were littered with 100 little storage seals which together could hold a lot of stuff. Like everything that wasn't absolutely unmovable in the Namikaze compound. Naruto had his clones even disassemble and seal the cool chakra power plant in the basement. The jutsu library was completely taken just as well as the contents of the armory and any documents he could find. Naruto created 4 shadow clones and sent them on their way with specific orders. He himself made his way to his personal target, the Konoha Ninja Bank. When he entered he noticed the place was littered with intricate seals and he had to wonder if there were even still any seal masters in the village who could restore these masterworks should the need arise. That he stepped towards the only banker he could see, a slim man, 50 years old maybe, with gray hair. A short look around verified that no one else was present. Naruto released the henge and grinned towards the banker. Hello, my name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. I would like to extract all my clan's belongings. The eyes of the man became wide as dinner plates, but then he signaled Naruto to follow him into his office. Sir, could you tell me if anything has changed since my departure? Am I still being hunted? I have to inform you that you have been marked in a class missing name. Even the information about the 9 tails was included. Since you are here you are probably already aware of that, but I want to assure you again that I will stick to the rules of my position as they were given by the first Hokage. We from the Konoha Ninja Bank don't answer to the Hokage or the council but only to the individual clans. Naruto nodded. Alright, first I would like to verify your identity. Naruto gave the banker his family tree and the documents for the Namikaze and the Uzumaki vault in the Ninja Bank. The banker briefly looked over the documents, then he pulled out 2 paper seals. These are clan verification seals. You just have to smear a drop of blood on them. If the paper turns green you belong to the clan and if it turns red you don't belong to it. Simple as that. Naruto smeared blood on both sheets of paper and both the Uzumaki and the Namikaze one turned green immediately. The banker was obviously a bit taken aback by the fact that Naruto could prove belonging to the Namikaze clan but was soon back to his professional demeanor. Good, I won't need further verification since it is known that you are Konoha's last Uzumaki and obviously Namikaze, too. All goods stored here belong immediately to you. But if you withdraw everything your clans automatically lose their status as clans of Konoha. Yes, I know that. Then I need you to return the deed of ownership to the Namikaze compound. Naruto nodded and pulled out the desired document. The man then began to write onto a special form. Now I need you to sign here and we can begin the transaction. Then the man led Naruto into the basement, past heavy metal doors with seals so powerful Naruto felt as if he could hear the chakra humming. In the vault there were a bunch of gates like the doors before. They had security seals on them too and clan crests. The banker stepped to one of the smaller gates. This is the Namikaze vault. Would you please pour a bit of blood on the seal to the left? Naruto did as he was told and noticed that the man did the same on his side. Then he turned away from Naruto to hide a bunch of hand seals and then a grumbling noise was heard that signaled that the great lock had sprung open. Together they opened the gates to the vault. Inside there was a small pile of gold bars and a slightly bigger pile of some sort of metal, in addition to several boxes. The Namikaze vault containing 5 tons of gold and 10 tons finest chakra conducting metal. In addition to that there is a special chakra sensitive stone and several other gems. Together this amounts to roughly 5% of Konoha's reserves. Then he walked over to the other side of the room. On that wall the doors were a lot bigger and Naruto recognized the clan seals immediately. Uchiha Senju, Hyuga and an unmarked 4th door. The banker stepped up to it. Together with Naruto's help he unsealed the gates and while pulling them open he began to explain. Before the destruction of the Whirlpool village a good size of the village's gold reserves was brought to safety and stored here in the Konoha Bank for safekeeping. The open gates revealed several big piles of gold and 3 swords in the back of the room. The vault contains 150 tons of gold and several diamonds, equaling 20% of Konoha's reserves. Additionally there are 3 family heirloom swords of unknown value. The man pulled out a handkerchief and wiped the sweat from his face because moving the heavy metal doors was hard work and because Konoha would soon be a lot poorer. As you can see together the content of both vaults amounts to 1/4 of Konoha's financial reserves. I have only one question, how do you plan to move all that stuff? Naruto grinned at that. No problem. He unsealed another of the big storage scrolls and rolled out both the new one and the one half filled with the stuff from the compound on the floor. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 50 Narutos poofed into existence. Alright everyone. Seal away. And with that the clones began the tedious task of carrying the gold and the other stuff to the scrolls and sealing it away. 2 hours later both vaults were completely empty and Naruto strapped the 2 big storage scrolls to his back. Then they began their ascent back to Earth level. So I guess once they contain something you can't seal the scrolls away anymore? Yeah, I really wish you could. It would save me from having to carry these things but I'll manage. The banker nodded. He still couldn't completely comprehend how storing away so many tons of gold was possible. By the way, I have to inform you that as according to the first Hokage's law I will make your transaction known to the council in one day. Naruto nodded of course. They then reached the lobby. Anyway, I hope you will return to Konoha one day, rebuilding your clan. Naruto nodded. I would like that too. Bye Mr. Goodbye Mr. Uzumaki Namikaze. Seconds after exiting the bank Naruto appeared outside of Konoha in a yellow flash where one of his clones had thrown a kunai over the wall. One day after Naruto's escape from Konoha. So you are saying that Naruto Uzumaki stole 1/4 of the village's financial reserves? Village Elder Hamura was livid. In fact, all of the village council was quite unhappy with the recent development. As I already stated earlier, esteemed elder, this was a completely valid transaction. What about the mansion? There were rumors a copy of the Whirlpool's complete jutsu library was brought there before its demise. Danzo asked. Well, just like the Namikaze and Uzumaki vaults in my bank, the mansion is completely empty. I visited it this morning and even most of the furniture is gone. All vanished into young Uzumaki Namikaze's storage scrolls. Stop associating our village hero with that thing. Elder Koharu was shrieking because of the stress at this point. I can guarantee you, esteemed elder, that Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze is the legitimate son of Minato Namikaze, the late 4th Hokage. The seals clearly indicated that Naruto is indeed a Namikaze and all the other Namikaze perished long before Minato. And then there is the little fact that Minato was married to an Uzumaki. Most of the council's eyes rested on the Hokage now. She was the only one who definitely had to know if this information was correct. The Hokage sighed. Explaining this mess would definitely give her a headache. 2 weeks after Naruto's escape from Konoha, Naruto appeared in a yellow flash inside of a dark laboratory. The laboratory belonged to Orochimaru, and contained everything an evil scientist could dream of. There were tanks with strange creatures on the wall, the tables were littered with stuff and a lot of blubbering substances, and there were 2 floating eyeballs in a jar. Naruto himself was breathing hard and clutching one hand to his right eye, which was visibly bleeding. Naruto had found the entrance to this base of Orochimaru a few hours ago, and had decided that armed with his father's incredible jutsu he should do the world a favor and rid it of the crazed Sannin. He had hidden his storage scrolls and then made his way into the snake's lair. The first thing that went wrong was that he didn't realize when he passed some kind of seal which cut him off from his retreat option, the Hiraishin kunai which was resting outside beside his storage scrolls. But even worse than that was engaging Orochimaru himself. Even though the Hiraishin was superior to pretty much everything in the Snake Sannin's jutsu library, this really didn't help because Naruto lacked the speed, tactical awareness and overall experience that was needed to fight on same level as Orochimaru. Luckily he had thrown one Hiraishin kunai into this part of the laboratory a while earlier, and he could use it to catch his breath. But Naruto was sure that it couldn't be long until Orochimaru found him. Naruto grabbed a kunai from his pouch and used its grinded blade as a mirror to look at his wounded eye. Naruto hadn't been fast enough and Orochimaru was able to stab him with his stupid blade. Naruto was no medical expert but he could clearly see that his right eye was completely destroyed. Naruto reached out to the fox inside of him. Hey furball, let's say I was to lose an eye. What are the chances that it grows back thanks to your powers? Ha ha ha. You pitiful human. Losing an eye. Serves you right. Naruto left his mindscape. This was clearly not helping. Naruto looked around in the dark room. He focused on the two eyeballs swimming in some kind of flute. Naruto noticed that the eyes held the Sharingan, the famed dojutsu of the Uchiha clan. Why the hell doesn't Orochimaru use these eyes with his current body? As far as I know, he is completely fixated on those things. Apart from that, a crazy idea sprouted in Naruto's head. And who was to stop him? Please don't use those eyes. What do you want, Fox? I don't like the Sharingan, don't use it, mortal. But then Naruto completely ignored any further comments from the demon fox. Naruto had been quite fed up with their recent interactions. Under heavy pain he removed the remains of his right eye from his eye socket. Then he grabbed one of the Sharingan eyes from the jar and plopped it into the empty socket. Under normal circumstances an eye transplantation should have never worked like that, but the powers of the demon fox helped immensely. Within minutes they bridged the small distance between the cut-off nerves in Naruto's skull and the nerve ends on the back of the preserved eye and brought it back to live. Naruto could see again. But only for a brief moment before his eye erupted in pain. It was a hot searing pain that seemed to run from his eye into his brain. Naruto was rolling on the floor clutching his eye and he was already close to ripping the eye back out again. But then the pain stopped as fast as it had come. What the hell was that? Take that kunai out again and look at your eye. Something has happened. Naruto again took out the kunai to take a look at his eye. He was surprised to find that the eye was wine-colored with black rings in it. What the hell is that? The Rinnegan, there was a small silence, Kit, you should really take the other eye too. What the heck? I won't give up my perfectly healthy left eye, and weren't you completely against using those eyes a while ago? Kit, just take the second eye and get out of here. We can talk about this later. You need to get away from Orochimaru. Okay, now I am seriously freaked out, since when are concerned for my safety. As I said, we can talk later. Naruto quickly sealed the jar with the remaining eye into an empty storage scroll and then bolted out of the door into a dark corridor only to see Orochimaru and Kabuto coming around a corner on the far end of it. But luckily he could outrun them with the help of a few teleportations via his technique. Eventually Naruto reached the stairs to the surface, and even though he had to leave some of his Hiraishin kunai behind, he continued his escape. While bolting up the many steps, Naruto could finally feel his kunai on the surface again and teleport it to its position. He quickly grabbed his two storage scrolls and started putting as much distance between him and the lab as possible. 2 days of running and using the Hiraishin to try and lose possible trackers later, Naruto felt relatively safe again. Naruto sat down and entered his mindscape. Hello, Kit. I have a proposition for you. You use that second eye you got and allow me watch what you are doing and talk to you whenever I want. In exchange I will tell you everything about the day of your birth and my attack on Konoha. That sounds fair, but why are you so interested in those eyes? My FA, a friend of mine, had the same eyes. And let's just say you remind me of him. I might tell you more another time. Alright, I will implant the eye now, and then you can tell me about the day of my birth. The new eye was already in its place, and like the other one it had painfully turned into the Rinnegan. Naruto was recounting what the fox had told him. So that Madara guy set you free and made you attack the village. But after he was gone you of course didn't just stop, forcing my father and mother to work together to seal you. While doing that they were mortally wounded by you. But my father would have died anyway because of the sealing method, and my mother would have eventually died because you were ripped out of her. Well, not entirely accurate, but that's about the gist of it. Alright. So what about these eyes? That is the strongest dojutsu in existence, the Rinnegan. It gives its wearer 7 different new abilities. He can only have one of those active at a time, but he can kind of give the other abilities to another body and control it. The Rinnegan allows its user to learn all of the different elemental jutsu. Additionally, it gives better eyesight, basic chakra seeing abilities, and lets you share your sight with those mentioned other bodies. Other bodies? Like corpses? That would be gross, wouldn't it? No, you should be able to use those shadow clones of yours. Now try to focus chakra into your eyes to access those powers. It took Naruto several hours to figure out how to access the different abilities. When he poured chakra into his eyes in a specific way, he could practically see, or rather feel, 7 rings, from which he could choose one to access. He figured out the ability of each ring, or path as the fox called them. But he was still far away from completely mastering them. Let me recount what we have learned. You possess the following paths. Deva lets you control gravity. Azura lets you transform your body into several metal weapons. You should stop using that with your real body. Human possesses mind-reading abilities. Probably mind-altering ones. 2 Preta can absorb chakra, allowing you to stop any chakra-based techniques. Elemental allows you to create creatures made of the different elements. You still need a lot of training on that one. Protection allows you to create nearly unbreakable barriers, and your line of sight. Healing has an excellent healing ability. It should enable you to heal normally mortal wounds. 1 day later Naruto figured out how to grant his Rinnegan abilities to his shadow clones. First he needed to create some sort of chakra-conducting metal by pouring chakra in a special way into his wrist. The process of drawing the metal from his body was really gross and Naruto hated that part. Then he needed to create a shadow clone while focusing on the path he wanted to create. The shadow clone would just vanish after a few minutes if it didn't insert some of the chakra-conducting metal into itself. Since the metal contained the same chakra as the clone himself, the clone wasn't destroyed by it. By adding the chakra metal, the path clone was complete. Naruto had a much more direct link to those clones than to his normal ones. He could give and take messages and orders to and from those clones and could see what they saw. This was highly disorientating at first. Naruto and his newly created paths would stagger around, trying to concentrate on the correct field of view, while the fox only laughed. While training his Rinnegan, Naruto found out the best way for him to travel. In the morning he sent out a couple of shadow clones with some Hiraishin kunai and spend the day training himself. The clones would leave one kunai on their way every few kilometers. In the evening after training, Naruto would then pack up and start using Hiraishin on one of those kunai after another, picking them up in the process. By doing this he could do both training and traveling on the same day. 1 week after gaining the Rinnegan. Hey furball, what do you want, Kit? Wait a second, do you have a name? Addressing you by insult seems to be getting old these days. Name's Kurama. And don't get soft on me. Alright Kurama, you see I realize that I can't switch my eyes off. And since I am kind of traveling while trying to stay hidden, these one-of-a-kind eyes seem really inconvenient. You are right, Kit, not to mention that people might want to attack you just to get your eyes. Yeah, so can I do something about that? As far as I know, transplanted dojutsus are always active no matter what you do. I may be able to do something, but you would need to trust me for that. Alright Kurama, do it. He allowed the fox's chakra to flow out of the seal and could feel it make its way through his chakra pathways and into his eyes. After a few minutes he blacked out from the pain. Naruto was slowly waking up from his pain-induced sleep. Welcome back, Kit. Did you have nice dreams? Of a certain pale-eyed vixen perhaps? Shut up, Fox, you could have warned me that this would hurt so much. It's not exactly like I do this every day, Kit. How should I have known? Naruto sighed and took out a kunai to take a look at his eyes. He could see cerulean blue orbs reflected on the steel. Wow Kurama, you are awesome. It is even the same eye color. Heh. Of course I am awesome. I am the Kyuubi no Kitsune after all. Naruto briefly poured a bit of chakra into his eyes and saw them change into the Rinnegan before he released the chakra, and they changed back. This is so cool. Then a puff of smoke alerted him. Sitting before him was Gamakichi. Hey Naruto, are you alright? When I checked on you earlier you were rolling on the floor in pain. Hey Gamakichi. I'm good, that was nothing. He grinned and rubbed the back of his neck. So what are you doing here? Any word from the old pervert? Yeah, in fact I am supposed to take you to him. But Ma and Pa guarantee you that we will bring you back here as soon as you want. Alright, do it. First Gamakichi vanished and a few minutes later Naruto suddenly found himself at the beautiful Mt. Mayaboku. After gazing around the landscape for a bit he focused his attention to the toad sage standing in front of him. Hey Gaki, hi Ero-senin. Would you mind telling me why in the world you are listed as an A-class missing nin in the newest bingo book? How come you don't know? All of Konoha has been after me for several months now. Well, I have been sent on a long mission by Tsunade shortly after you returned from capturing that Sasuke kid. Naruto blinked. Had Tsunade purposely kept Jiraiya out of everything? Well, you see, Tsunade had me arrested by a bunch of umbu for no reason and wanted to hand me over to that Danzo fellow. They said the fox was controlling me or something like that. You know that you were the reason Tsunade decided to become Hokage. Her just deciding you pose too great a risk to the village doesn't make any sense. Well, I don't know, maybe someone brainwashed her or something? Okay Gaki, I will see what I can find out. For now try to stay out of trouble until I get this problem solved. And avoid the Akatsuki at all costs. Keeping you safe will be really difficult for now. And I guess you won't be able to get any meaningful training until this is over. Naruto, I know you are dying to show off your new abilities, but for now you should pretend he is right. Naruto nodded. Jiraiya took a small look at his seal and soon Naruto said goodbye to his sensei and the toads and was brought back to his previous location. 3 months after Naruto's escape from Konoha, Naruto was currently restocking his supplies in Takigakure. Additionally, he had bought a few new clothes. Kid, I can feel there is another Jinchuriki nearby, only 2 streets ahead. Okay Kurama, we'll check it out. But we have to keep a low profile and not do anything to alert this village of our presence. When they entered the indicated street they saw a girl with green hair rolled up into a ball with several other children around her. She was about the same age as Naruto. The other children seemed to have a lot of fun with throwing things at the girl and shouts like monster and other insults could be heard. Scratch, keeping a low profile. We will get this girl out of here, if she wants to go. 1 year after Naruto's escape from Konoha, Naruto and the girl, who had been identified as Fu, had arrived in the far west outside of the great ninja nations. Naruto and Fu had trained together all the time and both had become significantly stronger. Fu had almost no real ninja training before her time with Naruto, but Naruto was able to teach her all the basics, and currently she was progressing well in her study of lightning jutsu. Naruto himself had mastered the elements of wind and fire, and many jutsu associated with them. His control over the different paths of the Rinnegan was nearly flawless. He had no problem coordinating all of his paths in confined spaces or spreading them out over several kilometers. The path allowing him to create elemental beasts was the only one not completely unlocked since he still hadn't mastered all the elements, and the creation of wind beasts proved to be quite difficult. But Naruto liked his fire elementals a lot. They consumed quite a bit of chakra, but they were a fearsome sight, and their heat was enormous. He had taken a personal liking to the gravitational powers of the Deva path. So he kept that to himself and spread the other abilities among his clones. Additionally, Naruto had learned quite a bit of sealing techniques, and even started developing his own seals. He still hadn't heard anything from the old Toad Sage since their last meeting, and he was wondering what could have happened or what the old geezer had learned to continue to avoid Naruto. The western lands were war-riddled and poor. Dozens of little warlords were trying to gain more influence and land through constant warfare. Bandits plagued the land and stole whatever the constant wars hadn't taken from the population. Most of the soldiers serving the warlords were normal people or samurai. Knowledge about ninja techniques was a rare thing, and the secrets of those techniques were closely guarded by a few elitist clans. It was still before noon and Naruto and Fu were doing their daily training exercises when one of Naruto's scouting clones dismissed himself. Naruto learned about a small town with a castle nearby. In the local arena there was seemingly going to be some sort of event. Naruto and Fu decided to take a look. After a few Hiraishan teleportations, during which Naruto carried the girl, they reached their destination. There were several groups of soldiers located in small camps all around the city. Many people were going towards the arena, so Naruto and Fu decided to do the same. By asking a random stranger, they found out that the local warlord had perished in the last battle and they were holding a tournament to determine the next one. To enter it was required to pledge a substantial amount of soldiers to the small nation's cause or give a great amount of money, or a combination of both. Fox? I am seriously thinking about going into the tournament. I mean, it doesn't look like I will be able to return to Konoha soon, and maybe I can help these people as warlord. Go for it. Traveling around and training all the time has become boring. Fu, what do you think? How does Warlord Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze sound? Can't we just keep traveling alone? I don't like being around idiots. Naruto's sweat dropped. The girl trusted him but still had severe problems with being around other people. Fu, you have to eventually be able to interact with other people. Besides, they don't know Jinchuriki or tailed beasts in this land, so they won't hate us. Alright. But if they turn against us, we get out of here. Naruto made his way to some official-looking men, who were obviously keeping each competitor's commitment, as there was already quite a heap of gold and gems next to them. On their table were dozens of papers, seemingly containing details about the promised soldiers. I want to join the tournament. The officials looked at him a bit skeptically but let it go. Can you pledge any soldiers to our cause? Well, if I win, there will be one really strong one helping us. At this, the girl with green hair standing next to the blonde waved towards the officials. But I would rather simply pay in gold. Okay, you will have to pay 10 tons in gold then. But you only have half an hour left to get it here. Naruto shrugged, took one of the storage scrolls from his back and unsealed the required amount. The officials just stared at him. Do you want to register any additional fighters? One of officials thought the blonde was maybe an easy source of money for the region. Nah, thank you. Sorry, Fu, but I'd like to do this alone. Fu nodded. Is that all? The officials nodded. What are the rules for the tournament? Everything goes. Most of the other competitors have registered a bunch of fighters relative to the amount of money and men they could provide, which means you will be severely outnumbered. Naruto shrugged. Numbers definitely wouldn't help them. Well, if that's all, I'll be going now. Naruto nodded towards them, and then made his way into the arena. In one corner of the arena, the designated competitors were arguing on how to organize the tournament. They couldn't come to a consent on how to pick the fighters and whether it would be one-on-one or group fights. Naruto simply strode into the middle of the arena, enhanced his voice by chakra, and cleared his throat. Alright people, the name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, future Kage, or whatever you call your supreme leader here. You there? With that he pointed to the group of competitors who had stopped arguing, and stared at the boy. I will earn the title of warlord today, and it won't matter if you attack me one at a time or together. Come at me. Naruto could have easily won the tournament just by catapulting all his enemies out of the stadium using his Deva path. But he wanted to impress his soon-to-be subjects, and convince them of his strength. A perfect opportunity to flaunt his abilities. He quickly activated his Rinnegan, and created his 6 paths. Instead of creating new chakra metal to control them, he unsealed some existing one. First, a single samurai made his way towards Naruto, a large katana resting on his shoulder. Naruto decided to take on the man by himself. He simply took out one kunai and charged. His taijutsu had improved along with the rest of his abilities, and even though the samurai had the range advantage, he didn't stand a chance. After exchanging a series of blows, Naruto stopped the katana with the help of his kunai and kicked the man's wrist, sending his weapon flying. His next strike rendered the man unconscious. Then a big group of about 20 samurai darted towards Naruto, their swords ready to strike. Naruto decided to simply create 100 shadow clones and let them do the work. It didn't take long and all the samurai were overwhelmed by the numbers and the clones knocked each of them out. Then Naruto dismissed the clones. 3 people in similar clothing, clan members most likely, started throwing knives out of thin air and throwing them towards Naruto and his paths. The protection path stepped forward and created several purple shimmering barriers in mid-air that stopped the projectiles. After they had seemingly run out of ammunition, Naruto's Preta path quickly incapacitated one of them using a strike to the solar plexus. Then he grabbed the other two by their throats, held them up in the air and started sucking out their chakra through his hands. They struggled for a bit, and then fell into unconsciousness. The path let them go, and they collapsed on the ground. Naruto's Azura path stood in a group of competitors using his metal-enforced limbs to block swords and pummel his enemies. He then shot out metal tendrils out of one of his hands that restrained his remaining adversaries and strangled them into unconsciousness. Two enemies charged at Naruto from different directions. Naruto quickly did a few hand seals futon. Detapa, a wave of wind flung the enemy charging him from the front into the arena walls. Then Naruto extended one arm in the direction of the other enemy and catapulted him into the other side of the wall using his gravitational abilities. He heard bones snap and realized that he had used a bit too much force, so he sent his healing path to help the man. Naruto's human path used a low-powered Rinnegan to bring down one enemy, but then he was destroyed by a man who could manipulate water without hand signs, using it like a whip. Naruto quickly threw a few kunai at the man, then teleported towards him using Haraishin and incapacitated the surprised man. A single enemy, another samurai, was left standing. Naruto sent most of his remaining chakra to his elemental path, allowing him to create a giant fire elemental, which could only be described as a walking inferno. Heat radiated through the whole arena. His last competitor shrieked and ran away. The fire elemental dispersed shortly after that. Naruto stood proudly in the arena among the horde of defeated enemies. Most people were staring silently at him because they couldn't believe what they had witnessed. Well, except a small girl with green hair. Woohoo, rocked Naruto Nizin, and soon the rest of the arena joined in celebrating their new warlord. Flashback. On the day of Naruto's escape, the Hokage was currently recounting the events as they were told by the witnesses, so Naruto broke his chains using the fox's powers. He then knocked out everyone in his way. Somehow he exited the IT department without being spotted and created a bunch of shadow clones to throw his pursuers off. He is still on the run at this point. Shino, Hinata and Tenten nodded. That is not entirely correct, Lady Hokage. Kurenai was speaking up and the rookies became nervous. The other two are only trying to protect her. But I know that Hinata actively assisted Naruto by knocking me unconscious, and she was most likely responsible for freeing him from his chains, too. As her sensei, I am truly sorry for this occurrence. Unfortunately, she obviously still has feelings for the boy and acted on them because of her small experience. I request being allowed to personally choose and perform her punishment. But that request was denied to Kurenai. There was no trial or official statement. Hinata simply disappeared on that day. 1 year after Naruto's escape from Konoha, Hinata was dragged to the office of Danzo Shimura by two Umbu. She was extremely pale and thin. When the Umbu pushed her into the office, she had trouble regaining her balance, and even staying upright. On her forehead was the mark of the curse seal of the Hyuga clan. Ms. Hyuga, it has been more than 1 year, hasn't it? Danzo clearly waited for some kind of response from her, but none came. You see, normally traitors to the village are immediately executed in public. You are fortunate that we couldn't afford to have the honor of the Hyuga blemished by the stupid actions of one little girl. Again he left a pause to allow her to say something, but she just stared at him. Anyway, even though you betrayed the village, I still plan to make use of your abilities. You see, there are some missions, assassination missions mostly, in which the survival rate is especially low. Sending good and loyal ninja on those missions is always a painful thing to do. Why you want to use me for suicide missions? Exactly, Ms. Hyuga, and if you run away or are simply too late on your return, we will activate your curse seal, cutting off all loose ends. You should already know that you will nowhere be safe from us activating it, should the need arise. Hinata collapsed, her weakened muscles unable to support her. Well, of course you will get a few months to rebuild your strength beforehand. Good luck, Ms. Hyuga. Then she was dragged out of the office by the Umbu to begin her training. 1 year later, Hinata knew she was in big trouble. So far she had successfully completed 3 assassinations and 1 intelligence-gathering mission, and she had never gotten as desperate as she was now. Finding her target, which was traveling with its small army, had taken far more time than she would have liked already. But the security measures around the camp were what was really giving her headaches. Hinata really didn't like this assignment. Her previous targets had been 1 corrupt government official, 1 drug lord and a B-class missing nin hiding in Kumo. After she had read each target's files and gathered information about them, she didn't have any qualms killing every one of them. But this time things were different. She was to eliminate an uprising warlord in the western lands, who was seemingly succeeding in uniting the war-torn land. So far he controlled about 1/3 of the overall region. There hadn't even been any big battles to accomplish that since he had used diplomacy, surgical strikes and the assassination of a particular cruel warlord to get this far. But most of the conquered warlords had joined his side after he had challenged them to personal battle. His strength had become legendary. The warlord had started a campaign against the local bandit groups and succeeded in driving most of them away. The lands had become significantly safer and the civilian population could go about their daily work safely again. Additionally, the warlord had negotiated a trade agreement with Suna and wares traveled to and from the great ninja nations that way. The region was starting to recuperate. Out of fear of losing their power, the remaining warlords had joined together into several alliances. But those would break apart when their common thread was gone. This warlord, however, had the possibility to truly unite the land. And the Leaf, or Danzo rather, didn't want that to happen. Hinata had been impressed about what she had learned about the man, and even considered abandoning her mission. But that would have meant certain death, and no matter how unlikely it had become, she was still trying to keep her promises to Naruto. Besides, her target had a whole army surrounding him, so if she somehow managed to kill him, it would basically be his own fault. Hinata was currently following a supply carriage drawn by an old horse and manned by 2 civilians. To her luck, the carriage stopped, and one of the civilians stepped into the foliage surrounding the road, presumably to take a leak. Hinata snuck up on the man, and after a juken strike to the neck, he fell to the floor unconscious. She searched his body and produced a few official-looking documents which she put into her pockets. Then she used Henge to take on the man's appearance, and went towards the carriage. Without a word, she sat down beside the other civilian, and they made their way towards the army camp. She had tried to approach the camp before. The small ditch with wooden spikes in it, and the small wooden palisade would both have been a joke for someone with her abilities and training. But in addition to that, the camp was surrounded by seals, and Hinata didn't want to test what would happen once she crossed them uninvited. To normal eyes, the seals were just lines out of white condensed pulver running all around the camp in weaving lines. But to her Byakugan eyes, the flow of a vast amount of chakra through the seal and its intricate patterns was a beautiful thing. She was sure she was dealing with a true seal master, so any head-on approach had been discarded. When they arrived at the gates of the camp, a single soldier stepped forward and demanded their papers. Hinata simply handed him the ones she had stolen from the civilian. The soldier took a brief glance at them before he took out 2 paper seals and gave both herself and her traveling companion one of them to hold in their hands. When she touched the paper, Hinata could feel a brief surge of chakra. If the soldier had had any ninja training, he would have seen Hinata's transformation falter for a split second when the foreign chakra entered her, or he would have just sensed her transformation in the first place. But neither was the case, and he lazily waved them along. Inside of the camp, another soldier collected the paper tags from them and designated them to a storage tent. Hinata helped the civilian to unload the cart to avoid suspicion, and then investigated the rest of the camp. The soldiers scattered throughout the camp seemed to be in good spirits. There was chattering everywhere. Weapons were sharpened and boars were roasting over several bigger fires. In what seemed to be an area designated for training, she saw dozens of soldiers sparring with different weapons, and there was a small group of soldiers training basic chakra control techniques. It was nothing truly impressive, and the men were probably too old to ever get anywhere beyond Chunin level. But it was a start. It was obvious that this warlord would want to found a ninja village of his own eventually, and Hinata gathered that it was just another reason why Danzo wanted him dead. Then she saw her target walking away from her. She recognized the blonde hair and black armor with an orange fox emblem on it from the stories. She could see he was younger than she had expected, and he was walking carefree through the camp with a green-haired girl of the same age to one side of him, and a black-haired man in a kimono on the other. The blonde had a strange piercing coming out of the back of his neck. The 3 of them were inspecting soldiers and wares delivered to the camp. Somehow the man, or boy rather, seemed familiar even though she could not see his face. But Hinata's mind had entered professional mode. This was her chance. She would perform the assassination and escape in the confusion. She ran up to the group and jumped. Slamming her knees into the blonde's back, she forced him to the ground. At the same time, she slammed down her left palm onto his back, right where his heart was, and channeled enough chakra through her hand to make it explode. She was experienced enough that she didn't even have to use her Byakugan to safely hit her mark. The body vanished into a puff of smoke. Hinata didn't have any time to really contemplate what had happened. In the next moment, the green-haired girl was upon her, wielding twin kukri crackling with electricity. Hinata managed to gain a little distance by throwing an explosion tag directly at her feet, and she and the green-haired girl got away from it in different directions. After the explosion, Hinata had to start avoiding throwing knives the black-haired man produced out of nowhere, and thanks to her swiftness and agility, she managed to avoid all of them. She was just about to activate her Byakugan when suddenly Hinata's whole body was yanked back with great force. She flew several meters through the air as if carried by invisible strings, and then something hit her on the back of her head. Everything went black. Hinata awoke a while later. She expected to be in chains and heavily guarded. Instead, she found herself on a comfortable bed, and her hands and feet were free. Judging from the ceiling, she was inside of a big army tent, and a classy one at that. She looked around and saw Naruto sitting by her side, looking at her. He was a lot taller than she remembered, and he was dressed in the armor of the local warlord. Fate had played another sick prank on her. Naruto himself was her target. Of course she would not kill him, but that meant certain death. Hinata began to cry. Sure, it's okay, Hinata. Naruto stroked his fingers through her hair. Hinata grabbed onto him and wept into his shoulder. What happened to you, Hinata? Why do you have the caged bird seal and the other seal? Kurinai-sensei T told the Hokage what happened. Tsunade handed me over to Danzo, and he makes me do missions for him, and will activate the seal if I fail. And Naruto, I'm so sorry. I was trying to kill you. Hinata broke out into fresh tears. It's alright, Hinata, I'm fine. Naruto was stroking the back of Hinata's head, which was still resting on his shoulder. But why didn't I find out about you being arrested? I gathered information about what happened in the Leaf whenever I could. If I had known I would have gotten you out of there before any of this happened. Hinata sniffed but calmed down a bit. Danzo said they didn't want me to ruin the clan's reputation. Naruto shook his head. Bastards. Naruto, what should I do? They will activate the curse seal in 2 weeks, and there is no way that I fulfill my assignment. I promise you, Hinata, I will find a way to remove that seal from you before that. You will be safe here. He said that even though he wasn't exactly sure if he could do it. He had already tried to remove the curse seal while she was sleeping and failed miserably. Will you stay here with me? Hinata smiled at him and nodded. Of course, Naruto-kun. She let her head hang low. I mean, it isn't really like I could return even if I wanted to. I guess I will never be able to change my clan. Naruto continued to stroke her hair to try and comfort her. We will figure something out, okay? And Naruto-kun? You said something about another seal on me earlier. How did you know about that? Well, since I've been training sealing techniques, I discovered that I have really good intuition when it comes to seals. I guess it is kind of a bloodline since my father was a seal master, and my mother's clan was famous for their seals, too. Long story short, I could basically sense the seal. Am I correct that it seals off your ovaries and prevents you from having kids? Hinata nodded. Danzo had been very careful in avoiding the Byakugan from falling into foreign hands. Naruto grinned. Then we should do something about that. He winked at her. Hinata fainted. Damn it. I was just joking. Are you sure about that, kid? After Hinata woke up, they continued to talk for a while. Naruto told her a bit about his travels and his time as warlord. Hey kid, I have an idea. I need to talk to the both of you. Hinata Kyubi wants to talk to us both. What? Well, you see, we've been getting along quite well since the whole Eye incident. Eye incident? Wait, I'll show you. Naruto briefly flashed his Rinnegan. Cool, huh? I'll show you what it can do later. Anyway, Kurama has really helped me out in the past, and I guess we kind of are friends now. He grinned. I promise he won't eat you. Hinata just nodded. She was a bit dazed by this information. Naruto produced a sheet of paper, drew a seal on it, and attached the tag to her forehead. Then he got into a meditative position, while holding her hands, and told her to do the same. A few moments later they were standing inside of the sewer of Naruto's mindscape. Hello, Naruto. Hello, little vixen. He gave her his biggest predatory grin. Eep. Stop teasing her, fox. Then Hinata remembered her manners. Hello, Lord Kyubi. Just call me Kurama girl. Anyway, listen, you two. You have 2 major problems. First is the obvious one, the seals on her. You are currently unable to remove them, and if I may take a guess, I would say it will take you years to gain the necessary skill. We may be able to negotiate with the Leaf, offering them funds and whatever they want, but they will bleed us dry and may decide to activate the seal at any time. Naruto and Hinata nodded. Then there is the second problem. Your vixen is weak. Hinata got depressed again while Naruto became extremely angry. What? Shut up, you stupid fox. Hinata is not weak, but she is. If the Chunin exams are any indication, her chakra reserves are low, she has little stamina, and apart from that she is quite fragile. Naruto was close to jumping into the fox's cage to pummel the stupid animal. He is right, and Naruto. Hinata was crying a little at this point, but the fox just continued. Of course I am right. Anyway, this poses a big problem. Since you won't always be able to protect her, and if things go as I think they will, you would be absolutely devastated if she ever got hurt, captured, or killed. Hinata threw a hopeful glance at Naruto, who still glared at the fox. But all of that doesn't matter because I have thought of something which would solve both of those problems. Both Naruto's and Hinata's eyes grew wide at that statement. Why, you mean why you can remove the seals and make me stronger? Hinata stared at him hopefully. That's what I just said. But of course what I propose is quite drastic to be able to achieve so much. What do you mean? I recommend unsealing me and resealing me into Hinata. What? I mean, there is so much wrong with that. Unsealing you would kill me, and as far as I know, sealing you into her would kill her too. Relax, Kit, I have thought of everything. First, I will give you a small portion of my demonic chakra to keep. That should keep you alive. Second, the reason why mature hosts die is because we tailed beasts have the option to kill them. You see, all seals allow a tailed beast to leak a small amount of demonic chakra into the host system, and while the undeveloped chakra pathways of newborns can adopt immediately, the more rigid pathways of older people take longer to do so. So as long as I don't release too much chakra into her system and let her adapt to me, she will be fine. And you can get rid of the seals? Since I will have direct access to her chakra pathways, and can help her heal any potential damage, that should be no problem. How can you make me stronger? Well, the obvious thing is that over time your chakra pathways will widen substantially to accommodate to my presence, and your chakra reserves will grow. Additionally, you will have self-healing abilities thanks to my chakra. And then there is the reason why Naruto could never access my full power, but it will be possible for Hinata with a completely new seal. Naruto nodded in understanding the missing key. Exactly, to the 8 trigram seal is the 4th used, it belongs a key, which allows to safely strengthen and weaken the seal. When you are strong enough, you could even unleash me myself, little vixen. Hinata staggered a bit at that prospect. But what about Naruto? I don't want him to be in danger because I take your powers from him. I don't think that will be a problem. Among his other talents he possesses those freakish eyes of his and will be perfectly capable of defending himself. Because of his Senju bloodline and my remaining chakra, he should even retain a bit of his self-healing ability. By the way, just like my own powers, his eyes naturally increase their wearer's chakra reserves. But since there is a limit to how fast a person's reserves can grow, a lot of that potential growth is wasted at the moment. Alright Fox, let me talk to Hinata about this for a moment. And if we agree, I will make the necessary arrangements. Naruto exited his mindscape and he and Hinata stared at each other. So what do you think? I don't know. See, can we trust him? Is it really safe that why you won't die? Well, as I said, I trust Kurama and see him as a friend, and he even had the perfect possibility to harm me in the past if he had wanted to. Anyway, if he thinks we will both get through this alive, I believe him. Hinata, I really hate seeing you at the whims of that Danzo jerk, and I see no other way to help you. So please let us do this. Okay, Naruto. Hey, it's funny actually. If we were still in Konoha, I would never agree to this, because I wouldn't want you to bear that burden and be looked down upon by everyone else. But here people look up to me. They know of the Kyuubi and they respect me for it. And Kurama really isn't such bad company when you get to know him. Hinata smiled. She was happy Naruto had found a place where people saw him for who he was. Alright, let's do this. Naruto entered hyper mode. He gathered sealing equipment, rummaged through scrolls and cleared the middle of the large tent. He went through a couple of hand seals and a small sealing altar appeared, just big enough for a newborn baby. There was a circle of lit candles around it. Naruto and Hinata stared at the thing. Well, you should sit down, I guess? Hinata nodded and sat down on the far too small altar. Take off your jacket and roll up your shirt a bit. I will need access to your belly. When Hinata took off her umbu jacket and sat before him in a black shirt, Naruto couldn't help but notice that she had developed quite well in certain areas. He started blushing. I am not a pervert. I am not a pervert. Concentrate, damn it. Naruto got into a meditative stance in front of Hinata and entered his mindscape. Naruto looked up to the big fox, who was towering above him once more. We are ready, Kurama. Then let's get started, Kit. Rip off that seal. Naruto went towards the giant gates. He noted that the paper seal was far too high to reach, but somehow his intention to access the seal caused him to float into the air towards it. When he was right in front of it, he unceremoniously ripped it off. The giant gates burst open and Naruto was flung back a bit into the sewer water. Naruto, what are you doing? Kurama and Naruto stared at the newcomer. Dad? Dad! Naruto jumped the former Hokage Minato Namikaze, who had appeared suddenly, and grabbed him in a fierce hug. Naruto, why have you freed the Nine Tails? Well, I kind of have to seal him into a friend of mine to help her. I see Minato was currently accessing some of Naruto's memories and one of those unnerved him quite a bit. You have left the Leaf Village? Yeah, I really didn't want to. But things went bad and I think Tsunade-bachan is being manipulated somehow. Minato nodded. I don't mean to disturb this tearful reunion, but I am kind of having problems containing my chakra now that the seal is wide open. Minato stared at the Kyuubi. Naruto detached himself from his father. What do I need to do? Come here, Kit, grab onto me and pull. By doing that you should be able to draw out a portion of my chakra. Then cut it off from me with something sharp. Naruto did as he was told, made his way towards the fox inside the open cage and began to pull. He drew a wide stream of red chakra from the beast. Alright, stop, Kit, don't be greedy. Naruto nodded. He pulled out a kunai and separated the stream of chakra from the Kyuubi. He could feel the separated power become a part of himself. In a puff of smoke another person appeared in the room. Kushina? Mom? Again Naruto captured the newcomer into a hug. He was crying tears of happiness now. I am so glad I get to meet you. But how is this possible? Minato grabbed the back of his head. That would be my doing. I sealed some of my own and your mother's chakra into you to help you. Naruto smiled and leaned closer to Kushina. Kurama cleared his throat. Not breaking free was getting increasingly difficult. Minato spoke up. Naruto, I will perform the sealing. I will make sure you have some time to talk to your mom. Thanks, Dad. Minato ruffled his hair. I know you will make me proud, Naruto. Make sure your mother tells you about a certain enemy you will have to face in the future. Naruto nodded and the fourth Hokage vanished from the mindscape. Now Naruto, you have to tell me how you have been. Okay, but you will have to tell me how you met Dad. Naruto grinned. Sure. While they were talking the Kyuubi started to be drawn out the mindscape, but they paid it no mind. Minato took control of Naruto's body. He went through several hand seals and concentrated on the Kyuubi, then he slammed his hand onto Hinata's belly. All the time she had been anxiously waiting for the sealing to occur. Minato could feel the fox's chakra being drawn out of Naruto's body, and into the girl, and let his own remaining chakra be drawn with it. There was still one thing he had to find out from the demon. Why are you helping them? Hell, wouldn't you want to know? It's the Rakuta Sennin's prophecy, isn't it? Naruto is the sage of the six paths reborn. The fox grinned at the former Hokage. No, I am sure that Naruto is not the reincarnation of the sage of the six paths. What do you mean? I won't tell you. The fox grinned even wider. Consider this your punishment for sealing me away against my will. Minato continued to try to get more information from the fox, but soon his chakra was spent, and he vanished. Naruto woke up with a terribly aching back. He noticed that they had spent the night on the floor. The sealing altar was gone and Hinata was still sleeping, her head resting on his shoulder, snuggled against him. We must have passed out after the sealing. Naruto gently wiped a few strands of hair out of Hinata's face and noticed her unmarked forehead. Nice work, Kurama. No answer. Damn it. Naruto had become quite accustomed to the presence of the Nine Tails. He briefly wondered if he would go insane because the demon fox was not talking inside his head anymore. He carefully detached himself from Hinata not to wake up the sleeping girl, gently picked her up and placed her on the single bed in the tent. Then he went about his morning routine. An hour later Hinata awoke. She had slept extremely well and felt well rested. Somehow she remembered lying on something really comfortable, but this bed didn't seem to fit the bill. Good morning, Vixen. Eep. The voice had completely startled her. Teasing you will be so much fun. Anyway, take a look in the mirror, will you? After she had gotten her bearings and remembered yesterday's events, she went towards the big mirror located in one corner of the tent, and immediately realized that the curse mark was gone. You have already managed to remove it. I am deep in your debt, Kurama-san. Well, sorry to tell you this, but I could not push enough power through you to really break the seal. Instead I activated its secondary function, sealing off your Byakugan and consuming the seal in the process. But I promise you I will be able to restore your eyes' powers in a few weeks. Hinata nodded. Losing her Byakugan was a small price to pay for her freedom, and if she was able to use it again soon, even better. Naruto entered the tent, his Rinnegan active. Good morning, Hinata. Wanna grab some breakfast? I would like to introduce you to my captains too. Sure, Naruto-kun. Ano, why do you have your eyes active? Well, you see, among other things, they give me the ability to summon special clones which I can control all the time. I can see what they see, and if there is a difficult problem they can directly talk to me about it through a mind link. I let them do most of the boring stuff while it gives me time to train and do other things. Anyway, let's go. He grabbed her hand and led her to a big tent with several tables, which were loaded with food. Naruto introduced her to the black-haired man from the day before, who identified himself as Kentaro Yamamoto, leader of the Yamamoto clan. The Yamamoto all had the ability to store a certain amount of items in a pocket dimension for later use. Then there were Saigon Ashikage, an old, gray-haired and war-seasoned samurai veteran, and Genri Takeda, member of the Takeda clan, who used birds both for scouting and in combat. Genri had a falcon on his shoulder, and fed him from time to time while eating breakfast himself. Naruto told Hinata that he had several other captains, who were currently on missions, spread out throughout the country. After breakfast Naruto briefly showed Hinata around the camp. Ano, can I wash up somewhere? Naruto nodded. Sure, but the possibilities to do that inside the camp are quite limited. I'll take you to the river where Fu and I go. He unceremoniously picked her up, and suddenly they were standing near a small creek. Right before them was a deeper and wider spot inside the stream, where the water was flowing slowly, allowing to take a swim. What was that? That's my father's technique, the Haration. Anyway, I'll pick you back up in half an hour. And in a flash she was gone. Hinata stripped down and waded into the water. The water was cold, but on her missions Hinata had grown accustomed to such circumstances, so she didn't mind and soon grew quite relaxed while swimming a few rounds. Suddenly an electric shock went through her, more irritating than painful. Eep! The girl with green hair was walking towards her on the water, lightning still crackling in her right hand. She stopped right in front of the still submerged Hinata, towering above her, and trying to look intimidating. You tried to hurt my Nizan. But on her face was more of a pout than an angry stare. Hinata felt a bit relieved. She had wondered what kind of relation Naruto had to the green-haired girl, and it seemed she didn't see him as a potential partner. I am very sorry for attacking Naruto-kun. I would never want him harmed. He was very dear to me back in the Leaf Village, and is so still. The girl nodded and let the lightning in her hand fade out. He told me about you and how you saved him. Anyway, I'm Fu. Nice to meet ya. I'm Hinata Hyuga. How did you get to know Naruto-kun? You seem to have much better ninja training than anyone else I met here. The girl shuddered slightly. Naruto rescued me from Takigakure. I was not welcome there because I contained the seven-tailed beetle. Has Naruto told you that he sealed Kurama into me? Fu nodded. He did, and now that you're like me, do you want to be my Nei-san? She asked this with somewhat exaggerated innocence. Yes, I would like that very much. The girl grinned. Then you will have to earn that. Hinata nodded. Naruto asked earlier if I could help him with your training, and I intend to do so. I should be able to put you through the most effective training possible now that you got the QB sealed inside you. And you will call me sensei. I would really appreciate your help, Fu-sensei. Anyway, I will let you continue your bath now. See you later. Goodbye, Fu. So that's it, huh? What do you mean, QB-san? Well, she seemed to be a bit too forgiving for you trying to kill Naruto. I guess she is planning to get her revenge by putting you through hell in your training. And not that I mind. My container has to be strong, so I approve of whatever she has planned. Hinata winced a bit but promised herself that she would endure the training or punishment rather and become the girl's friend. After Hinata had finished her bath, got dressed again and finished the rest of her morning routine, Naruto appeared and teleported her back to the camp. He led her to a storage tent where they got new clothes for her, now that she was no longer working for the Leaf Village. She picked black umbu-style pants and a dark gray umbu jacket with Naruto's orange fox head symbol on its back. She completely got rid of her Hittite, throwing away everything associating her with Konoha. You have quite a bit of ninja equipment here. I guess you already made plans for starting your own village? Hey, even better. Let me show you. He led her to a big seal in one corner of the camp. This is a seal I developed myself. It works on the same principles as the Hiration. But while the Hiration only works for myself and whatever I carry, these seals can transport multiple people or bulky stuff. Even better is that while my clones get destroyed when trying to use the Hiration, they can contribute the chakra necessary to the seals, meaning I don't need to be present for the teleportation. Unfortunately, it requires the same seal at both the start as well as the end location. This is amazing, Naruto-kun. Have you taught this technique to anyone like Fu? He shook his head. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to teach her. I fear that some part of it is some kind of genetic requirement, or a bloodline. How far does it go? Well, the maximum range for the Hiration and the smaller teleportation seal is about 3 kilometers. I am actually not sure if there is a distance limit for the big seals, like this one. Anyway, step in. After they stood in the middle of the big seal, Naruto went through a few hand seals. In an instant the scenery changed, the army camp was gone, and instead they stood just outside of a small village. On a field nearby, about 30 children were practicing advanced chakra control techniques, ninjutsu and taijutsu with one of Naruto's paths and several shadow clones. On another field, several other kids were instructed in sword techniques by a bunch of samurai. As you can see, I started gathering a bunch of promising students and training them almost immediately after becoming warlord. Most of them are either orphans or from one of the existing ninja clans who joined me. I know. What about the samurai? Well, you know, the samurai arts are more common in this parts than the ninja ones. The experienced samurai can do really interesting things by channeling chakra through their swords. Anyway, I was thinking about trying to teach some outstanding students both arts. Even with the sword in the way, they could still do one-handed hand signs. Hinata nodded. It was an interesting idea, but not many people would be able to learn both very different principles of chakra manipulation. I know. Naruto, have you taught them anything else but the practical taijutsu and ninjutsu skills? Naruto grinned apologetically and grabbed the back of his head. No. I mean, Irika's stupid lessons were just boring and didn't help. And I tried to teach them genjutsu, but since I can't do it, it's kind of difficult. Naruto, they need to be taught how to plan missions, to act in a team, lead a squad, calculate success changes, formulate battle tactics or long-time strategies, and how to handle difficult situations. And have you taught them survival skills? They will need to know how to seek or build a shelter, what plants are edible, how to track enemies and prey, and they need to learn how to be stealthy. If they don't have those skills when starting missions, they will most likely die. Naruto's face fell. Damn it, I really wanted to avoid putting them through that. Well, maybe you can try to teach many of those things in a practical way. Like surviving in the wild for a while under controlled circumstances, or having them plan and execute mission-like stuff. I don't know, like your old pranks maybe? Naruto hugged her. Hinata, you are a genius. Hinata went beet red. Naruto, but they need to learn discipline too. Damn it. They made their way over to the group of ninja aspirants. Morning, kids. Good morning, Naruto-sensei. I want you to meet Hinata. She is a good friend of mine, and will most likely help me with your training in the future. They greeted Hinata and they told her about their training for a while, and how they had come to train under Naruto. Finally, Naruto stepped forward. I am sorry, but we have to go now, and I will need to steal my alter ego here from you. I will give you a bunch more shadow clones for practice though. He dispelled his path and quickly collected the chakra metal and sealed it away. Naruto then created a couple hundred shadow clones for them to train with. He and Hinata said goodbye to the children, and they returned to the village. Why did you dispel your path and return your eyes to normal? Do they require too much chakra? Naruto shook his head. The reason is that I need to get to Suna, and I don't want anyone to know about my powers yet. The Chunin exams are being held there, and Gaara has organized a meeting with the Kages and daimyos of the elemental nations, where I can state my intentions. Well, of course he didn't include Tsunade and the fire daimyo because they might make negotiations difficult, but I guess I'll run into them there. Anyway, wanna come with me? Hinata smiled and immediately agreed, thoughts about a week-long trip alone with Naruto sprouting in her head. Alright then, step in. They had reached the big teleportation seal again and entered it. There was bright flash in front of Hinata's eyes and the landscape had changed completely. The air had become extremely dry and a midday sun shone down mercilessly. Heat was radiating off the dusty streets, which were surrounded by tall buildings made of sandstone. They were in Suna. Naruto-kun, this is amazing. What is the distance between Suna and your little ninja village? I don't know. Anyway, let's find Gaara. After a short talk with the Kazekage, they decided to wander around a bit until it was time for the meeting with the Kages. Still in the Kazekage residence, they met Shikamaru, who beckoned them into an empty room. After putting sound and other protection seals up, they began to talk. Hello, Shikamaru-san. Naruto, Hinata, it's really good to see you. I am glad you are both alright. Hey Shikamaru. I guess I get you to thank for providing me with food while I was hiding out in Konoha. Nah, I had Umbu following me for quite a while after your escape. I had Shino do it. Alright then, I still need to thank him. Suddenly realization dawned on him, and he grabbed Shikamaru by the throat. Wait a second. You could have sent me a message about what happened to Hinata. Why didn't you tell me? I'm sorry, Naruto, but Shino and I decided this together. You would have only gotten yourself captured or killed. Hinata grabbed Naruto's arm, holding Shikamaru. I think he is right, Naruto. Naruto let Shikamaru go. Perhaps he did have a point, but that didn't prevent Naruto from being angry about the situation. In any case, I am glad that you are alright, Hinata. My father, along with his friends on the council, tried to make the Hokage pardon you, but they were overruled. Hinata nodded. What about her family? Aren't they Konoha's most powerful and influential ninja clan at the moment? Couldn't they do something? Hinata went a bit paler, looked to the ground and spoke very quietly. Naruto, my father was the one who put the caged bird seal on me. Ooh. I'm so sorry, Hinata. He put his arms around Hinata to give her a hug. Shikamaru was a bit intrigued. So if he put the caged bird seal on you, why don't you have it now? Ano, Naruto found a way to remove it. Then you should maybe put a headband on to pretend you still have it. You are bound to run into one of the others sooner or later, and it might be beneficial if they think they can control you and blackmail Naruto. What? No way. I want to send a clear message that Danzo bastard that he should not mess with me. Misinformation is a powerful tool, Naruto. Naruto took a glance at Hinata and noticed she was looking at him with pleading eyes. She obviously thought Shikamaru was right. Naruto let his head sink in defeat. Alright. So judging from your appearance, you are that hotshot new warlord in the West, aren't you, Naruto? Yeah, I won that title 1 year ago, and we have made some progress until now. But it is still a long way to a unified West. Shikamaru nodded. This was very good news, something he could possibly use for his plan. Anyway, Shika, what's new in the leaf? Shikamaru's face grew darker as he started to report. Sasuke was married to Sakura half a year ago after a bit of intervention from the council. Wow, Sakura must have been really happy about that. Well, Sasuke has grown very detached and obsessed with this training this last 2 years, even more than before. His loss against you at the Valley of the End against you seems to be troubling him greatly. Well, and apart from that, Sakura is surely not happy about what the council decided a few weeks ago. What do you mean? Well, since Sasuke is the last of his clan in Konoha, he is eligible to be part of the Clan Restoration Act, meaning he is to take multiple wives. But Sasuke strictly refused to be paired with civilians or elder women, so the wise council decided to marry him to Ino and Tenten, since they are the only remaining acceptable kunoichi in our age group. Hinata and Naruto gaped. Wait. What? Did they agree to this? No, both of them don't want to be married to him anymore. Then they shouldn't have to. Shikamaru nodded. There is more. Danzo has reactivated his root program. The program entails the training and conditioning of very young children and switching off their emotions. The clans are forced to send a part of their offspring into the program. Naruto and Hinata stared at him. Those were grave news. And then there is your old teacher. Naruto's eyes narrowed. Which one? Master Jiraiya. What do you mean? Over a year ago a new Umbu appeared under Danzo's command. He soon made a name for himself since he is both powerful and intelligent. On a rather harsh mission he was accompanied by Shino, who reported to me that the man was forced to summon several toads to aid them. And he has white hair, even though it doesn't look anything like his old mane. But him working directly for the village, quietly following orders, that doesn't sound anything like him. Exactly? Huh. Oh no, if you think about it, it makes sense really. Lady Tsunade and Master Jiraiya are possibly the two strongest and most influential ninja in the village, and would be the first to directly oppose Danzo. So they were obvious targets for whatever he did. We have to stop this. Are you sure it is Danzo? And do you still not know anything about the method he uses? I am reasonably sure that Danzo Shimura is the one controlling the Hokage, but the how is still a complete unknown. I would actually like Hinata to take a look with her Byakugan to see if she can find something out. I am sorry, but I currently cannot use my Byakugan. Huh, why? Oh, that's a secret. Shikamaru shrugged. If they tried to keep something hidden, he wouldn't stop them. Too bad. Well, we have informed the Fire Daimyo about our suspicions and gave him what little proof we had about Danzo manipulating Lady Tsunade. We tried to convince the Daimyo to stop Danzo's actions and force him to release his grip on the power. But he is actually pleased with Danzo's approach because he thinks it will make his village stronger. So as you can see, the overall situation is quite grim. To improve it, I have thought of a plan to protect my own and our allied clans from Danzo's actions. Additionally, it could destabilize Danzo's support on the council and probably turn the population against him. But most of all, I hope this will change the daimyo's opinion. But I would need your help. This is stupid. We should do something finally and not talk about destabilizing or crap like that. What do you want to do? Start a civil war? The streets would run red with blood and our allies are still outnumbered. Or do you want to go to the Leaf with your own army? I can guarantee you in that case every single Leaf ninja will stand against you. We need to free Tsunade Bachan from his influence. Well, about that, we had Ino try to enter her mind 3 weeks ago. He lowered his head. She is still in a coma. Will she be alright? Yeah, we think whatever caused this will expire eventually. Currently though, even her father can't help her. Anyway, bottom line is we don't have a clue how to free the Hokage. Then we need to kill Danzo. With a little luck, Bachan and Erosenin will be free once he is gone. I never thought you would ever use such tactics, Naruto, or even actively try to kill anyone really. Naruto's face darkened. Well, I learned the hard way that sometimes it is better to kill one enemy than allow him to hurt your allies. I hope you won't use that new course of action too freely. Temari is very thankful for what you did with Gaara, you know. I don't think you can compare Danzo to Gaara's Shikamaru. Don't worry, I will be very careful when picking my targets. Shikamaru nodded. Well, if you want to kill Danzo, you should know that he has been very cautious over the last 2 years. He is almost always with Lady Tsunade, protected by multiple jonin and his special umbu. I don't think you stand a chance. You have no idea what I can do, Shikamaru. Shikamaru sighed. Fine, your best bet would be attacking them on their way back to the Leaf. You should probably wait until they have crossed into Fire Country territory. And don't get yourself killed. Hey, don't worry, Shikamaru. That Danzo guy is as good as dead. Alright, but please still listen to what I had planned. Think of it as a backup plan. An hour later, Naruto and Hinata entered the meeting room together with Gaara. As their host, Gaara was the first one to speak up. Honorable Kages, daimyos of the elemental nations, I'd like you to meet Naruto Uzumaki, warlord of the West. After Naruto had introduced himself personally to the Kage, Mei and Anoki and the 3 daimyos, he began to talk. My friend Gaara has informed me that many people in the elemental nations are somewhat apprehensive about the idea of a unified West. I am here to assure you that I have no intention of ever holding lands in the East. Furthermore, I would like to sign non-aggression pacts with every one of you and be allowed to send my own genin teams to the elemental nations Chunin exams in the future. Mei spoke up. I currently see no reason why we should refuse such a request. However, we are short 1 Kage and daimyo. Why is the Leaf and the Land of Fire not present? As you are probably aware, I am a former Leaf shinobi and currently listed as an A-class missing nin. While my promise to not hold any lands in the elemental nations of course applies to the Land of Fire as well, there will be no non-aggression pact with the Leaf since I still have certain objectives in that village. Everyone nodded. While there was peace within the East, the villages were certainly not against the idea of the other villages getting into trouble. But you must be aware that your friend Gaara, as you call him, will be forced to stand with the Leaf should you take any action, since Suna and Konoha are allied. I didn't really think this would be the case. This whole meeting was far too well planned out for that. But he still wanted to know what cards they were holding. That is not the case. Gaara's voice was as monotone as ever. Our treaty with Konoha has expired a few days ago. One of the main purposes of Lady Tsunade's presence here is without a doubt the renewal of the alliance. But as things stand, that will not happen. Everyone nodded. One more thing. Naruto was a bit nervous. This was the deciding point. My full name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, but I assure you, Lord Sasuke, that I hold no ill will against IWA. Anoki's eyes went wide. Minato Namikaze was a war hero of Konoha in the Third Great Shinobi War and hated enemy of IWA. You are the son of the 4th Hokage? Yes, however I am currently unable to back up that claim. But I am sure the Hokage will be more than ready to prove my parentage to you. Anoki nodded. Of course the Leaf would try to turn him against Naruto. But after what Naruto had told them, it seemed Anoki could just as well have the boy and his former village battle it out. A most interesting situation. Very well, I will accept the non-aggression pact. Naruto was relieved. He had achieved what he wanted. After the meeting was over, Naruto decided they should watch the finals of the Chunin exams. He and Hinata were making their way over to the arena when they ran into someone with pink hair. Sakura. It was none of Naruto's usual happy greetings, more of a statement. Hello, Sakura-san. Somehow Hinata managed to put enough malice into her voice that Sakura shuddered slightly. Hello, Naruto. Hinata, her eyes narrowed. Naruto, you are an A-class missing nin. Give me one reason why I should not apprehend you. Naruto shrugged. The same reason why I am not allowed to pound some sense into you and whoever's with you. That diplomacy stuff. If I attack you here, all the other Kages will be pissed at me. Same for you and everyone else from Konoha though. Who would grant an idiot like you diplomatic protection? Naruto groaned. Sakura was deliberately being a bitch. Sakura, you know Gaara and I have a history and we have been friends since back then. And for the record, I have control over a territory almost as big as Fire Country right now, so there is reason enough for me to have diplomatic protection. Sakura scoffed. He held most likely some backwater country which would soon collapse under Naruto's guidance. Anyway, Hinata, why are you with the idiot? I heard you were on a long-term mission. Well, I was arrested because I helped Naruto escape and then was used to carry out suicide missions until I met Naruto again. You helped him? Don't you know what he is? No, I don't. Why don't you tell me, Sakura? He is a monster, Hinata. He is being controlled by the nine-tailed fox. Funny that he seems so much more human than other people. If I had to choose whether to call him, Danzo, or my father a monster, I would most definitely not choose Naruto-kun. Danzo is a great man. A great man? And you simply ignore that he has people marry who do not want to and that he steals little children from their families? My mother told me that was necessary to ensure the Leaf's future, and the strength of its future shinobi. Your mother told you? Wait a second. Did your mother tell you the part about Naruto being a monster too? The usually quiet girl became uncharacteristically agitated. Sakura was silent for a second. That's it, isn't it? You just do and think what your mother tells you to. Sakura, I thought you were a stupid bitch before, but you are just pathetic. Naruto knew the situation was escalating quickly and tried to change the subject. Anyway, I heard you are married to the team now. Sakura was still gaping at Hinata since she hadn't expected such an outburst from her, but as she registered Naruto's words, she turned to him. Stop calling him Team Yubaka. She almost hit him out of reflex but stopped just in time. She noticed that Hinata had already been ready to retaliate. She sighed and calmed down. Yes, I am married to Sasuke and we are very happy together, but Naruto knew Sakura enough to see that something was wrong. Wait, are you lying, Sakura? Are you actually unhappy now that you are together with Sasuke? What do you know, you stupid idiot? And she stormed off. Well, that was unpleasant. Let's go to the arena Hinata and watch the finals. They made their way into the great arena and onto the VIP tribune, where the other Kages were gathered, including Tsunade, who was accompanied by Danzo. Hey Bachan, Naruto, Tsunade, let me talk to the boy. Naruto immediately knew something was wrong. The old Tsunade would have had bloody vengeance for cutting her off, but this one acted like an obedient puppy and stepped behind Danzo. What have you done to her? I don't know what you are talking about. She doesn't act like herself. You have changed her. I have only convinced her of my ways to strengthen the village, and she respects me for them. Talking about respect, what do you think your father would say about you opposing his village? I know he would be proud. The certainty with which he said this surprised Danzo a bit. Anyway, now he was addressing Hinata. I see you have found your target, Ms. Hyuga, and that you failed to fulfill your mission. I could never hurt Naruto-kun. Very well, but you will have to return to the leaf with me. Never. I'd rather die. Hinata glared at the old man but lost the staring contest and looked to the ground. You know that could be arranged very easily. Naruto had a really hard time not to sprout a happy grin and tell Danzo to his face that he had already lost that advantage. But he had promised to keep the fact a secret. Hinata will not come with you. Do you care for her? Maybe you would make a trade for her safety then? Last time I checked, you stole a lot of money from Konoha. I did not steal it. It was mine to begin with. And you should know that I would be a very bad ruler if I gave up even a small portion of my funds in the middle of a great war. We could, however, negotiate once that is over. Very well, Lord Namikaze. I look forward to doing business with you. As they took their seats to watch the final matches of the Chunin exam, Naruto was still thinking about Danzo. I would get him for sure. It was one day after the final of the Chunin exams in Suna. The main representatives from Konoha were heading home. They had crossed the border to Fire Country 1 hour ago. In the front were Kakashi and Guy, followed by Tsunade, who was flanked by Danzo and Sakura. Behind them were Shikamaru and 2 of Danzo's Umbu. Then everyone stopped. Blocking the road in front of them was one strangely metallic-looking Naruto. He opened his mouth and a projectile flew out of it right at the Konoha group. The projectile hit the road right between where Kakashi and Guy had stood moments ago and exploded into a large fireball. But the 2 veterans had already moved out of the way and immediately rushed the figure. While Guy engaged the figure in taijutsu, only to be blocked by its metallic appendages, Kakashi kept his distance, used his Sharingan to analyze their opponent's abilities and then used several long-range ninjutsu to attack him. But the path stood its ground. Danzo became nervous. He immediately had quite a good idea what this was about. He began fiddling with the bindings around his right arm, starting to remove them. From one side of the road a loud rumbling came out of the forest. Then they saw a giant monster made of earth and stone walking towards them, knocking down trees on the way. Tsunade and Sakura engaged it. While the earth elemental was usually really powerful and resilient, the woman's super strength easily started chipping away at its limbs and the rest of its body. It was only a matter of time until it would fall. Under Danzo's right sleeve something metallic was glittering and he was starting to open clasps on it. From behind the group 4 Narutos appeared, all a Rasengan in hand. When Shikamaru noted that 2 of those headed towards him, he quickly stopped them with a shadow bind jutsu. The other 2 engaged the Umbu. Both Rasengans missed, but they fought the Umbu tooth and nail in a taijutsu and ninjutsu battle. Danzo had finally undone the bindings. He didn't even bother with putting away the metal casing but immediately started hand signs. Several kunai hit the ground in front of him. The first 3 attacks had been diversions, but this one was the main attack. In a flash Naruto appeared before the old man, Rasengan in hand. Naruto could see that Danzo had just finished his hand signs, but before he could do anything else the Rasengan was already tearing through flesh and bones. Naruto continued to push the blue orb forward until it destroyed Danzo's heart, and finally all resistance stopped. The attack had pierced right through Danzo's body and Naruto's hand and arm were covered in warm blood. Danzo's body crumpled to the ground. Naruto was sure that there was no way for anyone to save him now, but to be on the safe side he pointed his other arm towards Tsunade, and used his Deva path to fling her away, full force, pushing her through several trees and out of sight. He hoped the woman was going to be okay. Then he teleported again, this time to get away from the remaining leaf shinobi. Half an hour later, after several teleportations, he was back in the western regions in safety. A few days later Naruto learned that somehow Danzo Shimura had survived. 1 month after the failed assassination attempt. It was a beautiful morning in Fire Country. The sun was shining and birds were singing, but the Preta-Path clone didn't really care about any of that. He was created 1 week ago in Suna and had since then made his way towards Konoha, littered with a lot of chakra metal to allow him to operate a long distance away from Naruto. And now he had reached his target. Konoha was just 2 kilometers ahead. Going further would mean running into the village's outer defenses, but that would not be necessary. He took out a scroll from one of his pockets and unsealed a ton of sealing equipment. Then he created 20 shadow clones. Alright everyone, you know the plan. Get to work. Later that day, Things were quiet in the Konoha Ninja Bank and the single banker present didn't think this would change for the rest of the day. But then an average Chunin entered the bank. He didn't even set foot into the security seals behind the entrance region but dropped a single kunai on the floor before vanishing in a puff of smoke. Then in a flash a very familiar young man appeared along with a very familiar older man. A second later the young man vanished again before reappearing with another very familiar older man. This process repeated itself 2 more times. Then the now 5 present people made their way towards the counter. Naruto was in the front with the clan heads Shikaku Nara, Chirza Akimichi, Inoichi Yamanaka and Shibi Aburame following close behind him. "Hi there, mister." With a big grin he unsealed one of his giant storage scrolls. "These friends of mine would like to make a small withdrawal." Flashback. Talk with Shikamaru. "Alright, tell us about this backup plan of yours." "Well, you see we want to leave Konoha." "What?" "Why? A bunch of reasons really, since my father and his allies are outvoted on every council session and thus were unable to prevent having several of our young stolen away. Everyone felt more like a slave or pawn than a member of our village. While my father tried to gain support on the council against Danzo's and the Hokage's decisions, I tried to rally other people. But most people don't want to go against him. The civilians are absolutely unconcerned, since Danzo mostly uses children from the clans and orphans, and most of the shinobi are too focused on their ideas of duty and loyalty to do anything. So we don't really see another option. I really don't like this idea. It seems like you are giving up Konoha." Shikamaru nodded. "I know it's troublesome, but in a way we do. While I really hope this will help turn the daimyo against Danzo, another part of me is sure that nothing major will happen, and we will just further deliver the village to Danzo's hands by removing many of the people who could stand against him from the village. But I just don't see any other viable option. Then I will just have to be successful in killing Danzo and this won't be necessary." "By the way, who did you mean with we? Who is in on this?" "Your clan? The Nara, Akimichi, Yamanaka and Aburame." "Wait, all of them? The whole clans?" "Yes. The clans and some others, who are with us." "Where do you want to go?" "Well, I hoped you could give everyone shelter." Naruto's eyes lit up and he nodded. He liked the plan a bit better after now. "It's a long way but we would be relatively safe from Konoha. Our biggest problem is of course how to get everyone out of the village. I was thinking of a diversion, something along the lines of a giant fire maybe." Naruto shook his head. "Shikamaru, that is actually the least of your problems." "Huh, wait a second, I'll show you." Naruto quickly unsealed some of his sealing equipment and drew 2 teleportation circles on the ground. Then he beckoned Shikamaru into one of them, and after a few hand seals he appeared in the other one. "These things have a range of 3 kilometers. My bigger seals would be able to take you from Konoha directly into the western regions, but I guess there is not enough room in your compounds to hide one of those. Then maybe you could use smaller seals in the compounds and a big seal outside of Konoha?" "Yes. That could work. Do you have enough chakra to pull off something like that?" "You would have to teleport about 600 people after all." "Easily. Shikamaru, I am sure I would be able to move the whole village if needed, but we would still need to get you into Konoha, Naruto." Hinata spoke up. "Naruto, can't you just give Shikamaru some of your Hiraishin kunai and he distributes them to everyone who wants to come with us?" "Yes. That's a brilliant plan, Hinata." He handed Shikamaru a scroll with several Hiraishin kunai in it. "Wait, are you saying Naruto can use the Hiraishin? The fourth's your father's technique?" Naruto shrugged. "Yeah, I first used it when getting away from Konoha." Shikamaru's thoughts were racing. Now this operation seemed a whole lot easier. "Shikamaru-san, who are the others you were talking about? Who besides the clans would be coming with us?" Tenten and her father for once. She was easy to convince, considering how strongly she is opposed to marry Sasuke. Enko has had a hard time since Naruto left the village. I guess it was because people were looking for another victim to take out their frustrations on. And then there are Tochi and Ayam from the Ichiraku ramen stand. Naruto was overjoyed. If they did this, a lot of his old friends would come with him to the west. But he reminded himself that this would not be necessary since he would just kill Danzo. Yes, if he managed to do that, every one of them would be happier and able to stay in Leaf. What about Kiba-kun? Hinata had actually first wanted to ask about Niji. But that would have been silly because they didn't really have a viable way to remove the curse seal. She was certain that Kurama would get very angry if they tried to pass him around and use him as a means to remove cursed seals. And the whole process based on the Fox's cooperation after all. Well, there has been an internal struggle in the Inuzuka between supporters of Danzo and those opposing him. Kiba was actually of the opinion to support the Hokage and by that Danzo's actions. Since we weren't sure how things would go, we didn't even try to recruit him. Hinata looked clearly discouraged by this news. And bushy brows? Well, since Lee is so focused on his sensei guy, we tried to include him in our plan several months ago to maybe take both of them with us. Unfortunately, Guy began spouting how unyouthful it is to betray one's village. I had to restrain him with my shadow bind jutsu, and luckily Ino was able to wipe his last hour of memories with the jutsu she learned. Naruto sighed. They may be able to take a lot of their friends with them if it came to it, but many others would stay behind. He nearly didn't have the courage to ask the next question. Iruka-sensei? Iruka clearly opposes Danzo, but he told me he didn't want to take any open action against the man. He rather wants to protect his students and teach them the will of fire, so that they don't become taken in by Danzo's teachings. Naruto nodded. He could have figured it would be something like this. One more thing. If we do this, we have to rescue the taken children from the root headquarters. By the way, there are even 2 people there whom you know yourselves, even though they don't fit the normal age group for root recruits. End flashback. After they had emptied the 4 clan vaults, Naruto brought the clan heads back to their respective compounds to oversee the evacuation. After the others were home, Naruto teleported with Shikaku to the Nara compound, where Hinata was anxiously waiting. A few meters behind her was the small teleportation seal, which connected the Nara compound to the big teleportation seal outside of Konoha. There was a long line of people and their possessions, and one group after another entered the seal and was sent away by some of Naruto's shadow clones operating it. Even more of Naruto's clones were transformed into Nara and were posing as them outside of the compound, doing their usual routines to avoid suspicion. Immediately after Naruto and Shikaku had appeared, Hinata asked them, "Did everything work out?" "Yeah, we got everything. With all those empty vaults, the ninja bank doesn't look as impressive anymore." He took the big storage scroll from his back and handed it to Shikaku. "Here, Mr. Nara, you keep this for now." The Nara accepted the scroll and went to help a few of his clansmen with moving a big chest onto the teleportation seal. "Naruto, can we please start the second phase already?" "Hinata, please calm down. We can't risk this when half of the clansmen are still inside Konoha, and even then you have to keep a level head." Hinata nodded. They had had discussions about this multiple times already after all. But she couldn't help being restless. "Let's go meet Shikamaru. He has the best overview of our situation. But before that, I need you to create a shadow clone for a special mission." Hinata did as she was told, and Naruto created a shadow clone, too. Then the 2 shadow clones hinged into a random male and female Nara respectively, and the Naruto clone led the Hinata clone out of the compound. The real Naruto grabbed Hinata and teleported them both to the big teleportation seal outside of Konoha. There Shikamaru stood beside the designated entrance to the seal with a big bunch of papers containing a complete list of the refugees. Whenever a group made its way from one of the 4 small teleportation seals to the big one, he marked the respective people as present on his list. "Hey Shikamaru. How are things?" "Well, we got about 3/4 of our people into safety. You still need to pick up the Ikarakas and Tenten and her father from their respective homes, and then we can start phase 2. What about Crazy Snake Lady?" "Enko is already in the west. She simply strode into the Yamanaka compound and used the seal there. She wanted to get away from the village fast, it seemed. Luckily it doesn't look like she drew too much attention." Naruto nodded. "Alright, then I'll hurry with getting the others." And in a flash he was gone. Naruto arrived in the back of Ichiraku's and was standing right in front of Ayam, who was rummaging in one of the suitcases standing around. "Naruto." "Hi Ayam, long time no see." She quickly gave Naruto a hug to greet her long-gone friend. "I know we don't have much time right now, but I figure you would be very interested in hearing this. I overheard how Lady Tsunade told Sakura that she was pregnant yesterday." Naruto wasn't really sure what to think about this. After their last encounter, he had wondered if Sakura shouldn't stop seeing Sasuke, if even she couldn't be happy around him anymore. But with her being pregnant now, things would get really difficult if Sasuke didn't change. "I hope she will be fine after this. I am not sure Sasuke treats her right. Naruto, since you were gone she has been talking badly about you basically non-stop. You really shouldn't show her any sympathy." Naruto shrugged. Whatever happened, he was basically incapable of resenting the girl. "Anyway, I'm glad we get away from this village. Can you believe many people actually celebrated when it was announced that you would be turned over to Danzo?" Unfortunately, Naruto had no problem imagining this to happen. He knew that despite everything he had done before his flight, most of the villagers still resented him. At least their celebrations came to a sudden stop when your escape was made official. Ayam called her father from the counter to the back of the ramen stand, and after a short reunion between the blonde and the old man, Naruto created 2 shadow clones to take their places and avoid suspicion. Then he transported both of them and their luggage in multiple jumps to the big teleportation seal. After that, Naruto teleported to the weapons shop, where Tenten and her father lived. Her father had closed the shop for the day, since they were taking everything in it with them, and it was impossible to hide that fact from possible customers. Tenten only greeted Naruto briefly, and then demanded to be taken away as fast as possible, to flee from the village, which tried to have her marry Sasuke Uchiha. Naruto complied and quickly teleported her outside of the village. Then he returned to get her father and their possessions. Transporting their luggage was easy enough. It was only one bag filled to brim with storage scrolls of all kinds of sizes. After Naruto reappeared with the man at the big teleportation seal, Tenten immediately dragged her father towards it. Naruto rejoined Hinata and Shikamaru. His father Shikaku was with them. Wow, she really hated the idea of staying in the village and marry the team. Shikamaru nodded. Yes, she was absolutely ecstatic when I first presented the plan to her. Then his attention was drawn to one of the small teleportation seals, where Inoichi appeared, carrying a still unconscious Ino, with his wife next to them. They slowly made their way towards the big teleportation circle. With that, the evacuation of the Nara and Yamanaka is complete. Only about 15 Aburame and 10 Akimichi still need to make their way through the seals, and we haven't had word of any troubles. Does that mean we can finally go? Yes, Hinata, we'll rescue your sister now. Naruto was a bit concerned that the usually calm and collected girl was this agitated, and he hoped that it wouldn't cause any problems. How is your chakra, Naruto? You have been teleporting people all day and created a ton of shadow clones to pose as the missing clansman after all. I have used up a bit more than half of my chakra so far. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Shikamaru nodded and handed his lists over to his father, before Naruto. Hinata and Shikamaru stepped onto one of the now unused teleportation seals and Naruto brought them towards another seal outside of Konoha. A few minutes later they were observing the two Umbu guarding the great metal doors to the root headquarters, just outside of the village walls. I'll take care of them. Hinata circled the Umbu in the cover of the forest. She made a few hand signs and then rushed towards the first one. The Umbu didn't react immediately and when he did, it was too late. Hinata had reached him and after one strike to the chest he crumpled to the ground dead. Shikamaru was impressed. She had used a simple genjutsu to delay their reaction for just a few seconds and that was enough. The second Umbu tried to get away from Hinata but she was faster, and in hand-to-hand combat a Hyuga was absolutely deadly. A second Juken strike to the heart later he was dead, too. Hinata is scary. What have you been teaching her? Naruto shook his head. She has been with me for a month only. This is Danzo's training showing. Shikamaru shuddered, he should have figured this much. With their Byakugan and ability to kill by touch only, the Hyuga had the tools to be excellent assassins. But most of them were too obsessed with their ideas of honor to go down that path. They joined Hinata in front of the great metal doors. Naruto created his 6 paths and planned to blast the doors open with his Deva Path's gravitational powers, but Hinata beat him to it. She coated her body in demonic chakra and after a few punches the metal doors first bent and then burst open. Hinata let the chakra cloak dissipate and was breathing hard. Nevertheless she stormed into the complex only seconds after that. Shikamaru and Naruto stared after her. Troublesome. It seems by taking Hinata's sister, Danzo has unleashed a monster. And what kind of power was that anyway? Naruto only shrugged. Then both followed after the agitated girl. Naruto left his protection path at the entrance to defend it against incoming Leaf Shinobi. In the entrance hall lay the bodies of 2 more root Umbu. Hinata was nowhere to be seen. Shikamaru stayed in the entrance hall and took out another list. He was to make sure they rescued all the taken children. Naruto left several shadow clones with him, who started drawing a new teleportation seal. He and his remaining paths fanned out into the complex. Shiri Aburame was having another bad day. Their instructor was making her and her partner dodge kunais again, and she was sure that he loved seeing them run for life, bleed and scream. Logic dictated that they somehow had to escape, but there was never a chance to do that. Their instructor had used a specific seal again this morning, which cut her off from her hive mentally and made her quite helpless. She was sure that he loved seeing her at his mercy. Shiri realized too late that their instructor had now thrown 6 instead of only 3 kunai, and she was unable to dodge 2 of them. But then her partner intervened. He blocked one of the kunai with his arm and his Rinnegan, his little ninja dog, jumped and picked the other one out of the air with his snout. The boy drew the slightly blunted kunai out of his arm and was now bleeding. Since their instructor had forbidden them from working together for this exercise, Shiri knew that he would punish the boy. Her partner had taken quite a lot of their instructor's hellish punishment for quite some time now actually, and often it was for defending her. This confused Shiri greatly, since the boy's actions defied all logic. Suddenly the door burst open and a young man with blonde hair and strange eyes entered the room. Their instructor seemed very surprised about the sudden intrusion, and that was his downfall. The blonde rushed towards him and quickly shoved a blue ball of chakra into the evil man's chest and sent him flying. Then he turned to her. Shiri Aburame? She nodded. Hee, I knew it. Of course the sunglasses wearing one is an Aburame. Anyway, I'm here for you. Your family is leaving Konoha and you're coming with us. She nodded. She wasn't sure if her family was acting according to logic, but that didn't matter. She was just happy to get out of here. And who are you? Kiro Inuzuka. Of course, the dog. I'm sorry, kid, but your family is not going with us. Well, if you want you can come too, but you most likely you won't be able to return to Konoha and see your family for quite some time then. The boy looked crestfallen, obviously unsure what to do. Either go with a complete stranger away from Konoha and your family or stay and most likely be subjugated to more of this hellish training in isolation from the rest of the village. Shiri knew that logic probably dictated for the boy to stay. He might be able to return to his family and friends once this was over, and if he went, chances were that the council would demand another child from his clan. But somehow Shiri didn't want him to stay. She extended an arm towards the boy. Kiro had been thinking hard before, but when he saw her gesture his face lit up and he gladly took her hand. He gave a determined nod towards their rescuer to signal that he would come with them, and his Rinnegan barked his approval. Naruto was running through the halls of the root complex, searching for more of the children and for Hinata. He paid some attention to his shared vision with his paths, who had so far rescued 10 children. He still couldn't comprehend how these people could put 5-year-olds through such brutal training. Suddenly Naruto noticed the feeling of demonic chakra in the air, and immediately rushed into the direction it came from. Naruto took several wrong turns because the corridors sometimes went into directions he didn't expect, and he lost some time because of that. He was worried by loud crashing sounds which rang through the complex, obviously originating from the same position as the demonic chakra. He finally arrived in a large hall where he saw 5 dead root ambu lying on the floor with horrible injuries and missing limbs. The large cement pillars in the room had been destroyed during the fight, which caused the ceiling in the middle of the room to come crashing down. Naruto saw a young Hyuga girl, most likely Hinata's sister, run away into the opposite direction from him into the chaos. She dodged through the waves of collapsing cement blocks before an especially large part of the collapsing ceiling shielded her from view. Hinata was staring into the direction in which her sister had vanished. She only had some long scrapes on her arms and legs and was otherwise unharmed, but she looked completely exhausted. She was breathing hard, was looking very pale, and she was even swaying slightly. "Hinata, are you alright?" Now that he had gotten closer, he could see the girl was shedding some tears. She let her head sink in defeat. "She doesn't want to come with us." "Well, we could still take her, these rocks won't stop us." "Maybe she is being manipulated." Hinata just shook her head. "No, Hanabi is doing this of her own free will." Now she looked at him determined. "I won't force her." "Are you sure? Will you really be alright with that?" "Yeah, please let's just get out of here." Naruto nodded, grabbed Hinata and teleported them back to the entrance to Shikamaru. "Have we found everyone, Shikamaru?" Shikamaru sent a worried glance towards Hinata but started to report. "Well, you found all our clan's children. Additionally, you rescued 9 orphans and 1 Inuzuka boy. I only thought Konohamaru Sarutobi would be here, too." Naruto cursed. After what Shikamaru had told them, he had expected to run into the third's grandson here somewhere. But somehow that hadn't happened. Hinata, could you use the Byakugan to look for him and any other children we might have missed? "Yes, Kurama-san managed to unseal one of my eyes yesterday." She shuddered slightly. Her eye wasn't restored completely, and still hurt a bit when she used it. And she definitely didn't look forward to the painful procedure of the fox unsealing her other eye. Byakugan. After scanning the complex for several minutes, she came to a conclusion. "I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, but Konohamaru isn't here. Only my sister and a few older root members are remaining." Shikamaru already had a theory. Maybe Danzo puts him through special training somewhere? He is the son of the 3rd Hokage after all. Damn. Well, alright, let's get out of here then. There is nothing we can do. They all stepped onto the teleportation seal and Naruto started his hand signs. "Dope." The call rang through the entrance hall. Naruto knew that voice. "I'll be there in a second." He stepped out of the teleportation circle and with a few hand seals he sent Hinata and Shikamaru away, before they could protest. "Sasuke! How did you get in here?" Gritting his teeth, the Uchiha answered. "Your clone let me through the barrier." Naruto could of course have seen this if he had paid any attention to the protection path's vision. What was he thinking, or rather what was I thinking? I am still in the middle of enemy territory. I need to make this quick. Anyway, Sasuke, what have you been up to since I was forced to leave the village? I trained to become strong enough beat you. What is up with your eyes, dope? Well, I kind of lost one eye and found this cool replacement ones in one of Orochimaru's lairs. He was definitely not going to tell Sasuke that his eyes were basically an evolved Sharingan. Anyway, I heard congratulations are in order. Sakura is pregnant. Sasuke scoffed and shrugged. Sasuke, she really cares about you. Don't do this to her. I don't care. My first goal is to kill Itachi. She is an inconvenience. Naruto just shook his head. Sasuke, you don't have to be like this. You don't need to act like a total asshole to become strong. I am only with Sakura because it was one condition for Danzo to train me. Naruto blinked. Danzo trains you? Sasuke, why are you so drawn to power-hungry maniacs? What do you mean? Haven't you realized that he somehow manipulates Tsunade into doing his will? That was the reason why I had to leave Konoha. And that's just besides the facts that he steals little children from their parents to train them and wants to marry you to women who do not want to marry you. All that doesn't matter. Danzo's training is much more effective than that of that lazy-ass Kakashi. Listen, Sasuke, how about you come with me? Sakura too. We can be a team again and I and some friends of mine can teach you quite a bit. As I said, you don't need to be an ass or turn to power-hungry maniacs to become strong. I would never accept your help, dope. I will always be superior to you and I will prove it. And that means any training from you or your friends would be pointless. Naruto growled in frustration. Now Sasuke was really pissing him off. So you will continue work for Danzo? He is just a stepping stone for me to gain power, just like you. Fight me, dope. Sorry, Sasuke. I am kind of exhausted and need to get out of here. You will fight me now, Naruto. And Sasuke stormed forward while making the necessary hand signs for the Chidori. Out of reflex, Naruto used the powers of his Deva path and embedded the surprised Uchiha into the nearest wall. He could see immediately that Sasuke wouldn't recover anytime soon. Damn it! If he was this grumpy before, after I beat him in an hour-long match at the Valley of the End, I don't want to know what he'll be like after this. Then Naruto vanished in a flash. He reappeared near Hinata and Shikamaru right next to the big teleportation seal. Shikamaru was looking through the lists his father had left him before using the seal. The girl captured Naruto in a quick hug. I'm glad you are alright. As if Sasuke could touch me as things are now. Anyway, Shika, how does it look? Did we get everyone out? I can't really believe it, but we did it. Everyone except Konohamaru and Hanabi is accounted for. Well then let's leave Konoha behind us. A minute later they were gone. Behind stayed only a few shadow clones, who were tasked to erase the seal and any other possible evidence. An hour later, Naruto and Hinata finally arrived at Ichiraku's ramen and took seats next to each other. They had roamed the streets for some time while chatting about random things, and with Naruto's carefree attitude the Hinata clone was really intrigued what this special mission was all about. Hey old man Tucci, and Tucci rolled their eyes, while Hinata giggled at his antics. He was still looking like a Nara, but he certainly didn't act like one. Naruto, what is this special mission? Why are we here? Well, you see, there kind of is no special mission, I just needed to tell you something. Hinata nodded. She had already figured this much, and really wanted to know now why they had gone to Ichiraku Ramen. You see, a while back after my first real mission in Wave Country, I was thinking on how attached Sakura was to Sasuke. It was the first time that I actually thought I might not end up being with her. But that didn't really affect me that much because I thought once I was a famous ninja or Hokage already, I would find a girl for sure. Hinata nodded. This sounded just like Naruto. His confidence was incredible and nothing could keep him depressed for long. Well, you see, I thought about how things would be once I was a famous ninja, how people would look up to me and that maybe I would even have my own little fan club just like Sasuke. But then I realized something. I know that some members of Sasuke's fan club had some strange ideas of Sasuke's greatness, but had no idea what Sasuke himself was like. I didn't want to be with a girl who only thought of me as some kind of awesome ninja or hero, without knowing the real me. So I decided I would definitely take out the girl I liked to Ichiraku's at least once to show her that I, while awesome, am still Naruto Uzumaki, ramen lover and #1 knucklehead ninja. He chuckled and grabbed the back of his neck. I mean, it's not like I needed to show you that, since you liked me before I became awesome in any way. But well, it was promise, even though it was one only to myself. Hinata's eyes went wide. She now knew where this was going and that brought her close to a mental breakdown. Well, I know I probably should have taken you out somewhere else first and in person and not like this, transformed and just as shadow clones, and I am really sorry for this. But we kind of didn't have the time before and this might be the last chance to ever take out anyone to Ichiraku's. Not that I mind, since I have already taken the girl I like here. Hinata, I have been thinking about you ever since you rescued me from that interrogation cell. I realized how nice you are and how much I like you as a person. And this last month of training and working together has only confirmed that I really like being around you. What I want to say is, Hinata, will you be my girlfriend, please? Hinata had silently listened to Naruto all the time. Over the course of his speech her eyes had first gone wide and later her face sprouted a fond smile. After the last words registered she quickly screamed out a yes, before jumping Naruto and capturing him in a long hug, which he gladly returned. They were still in this position when Tucci placed one giant bowl of ramen in front of the two, along with 2 pairs of chopsticks. This might be the last meal ever served here, so let's not let this go to waste and dig in. Hinata was a bit disappointed but detached herself from Naruto and sat down on her chair again. Then they both started to attack the big bowl of ramen. After they had eaten for a few minutes, Naruto set his plan in motion. He grabbed the other end of the noodles held by Hinata's chopsticks, led it to his mouth and began slurping it down, while Hinata had the other end of the noodles in her mouth and stared at him. Then she followed after his example and began inhaling her part of the noodles, decreasing the distance between them quickly. When there was no more space between them, they gave each other several quick pecks on the lips before Naruto bit off the noodles and both of them quickly chewed down their half. Then Naruto captured Hinata in a full-blown kiss. She tasted really exciting to him since she had just eaten ramen. 2 minutes later Naruto and Hinata dispelled from lack of hair. Then Tucci dispelled from hitting his own forehead too hard. Ayam only rolled her eyes. Naruto and Hinata were in a meeting with the clan heads and Naruto's captains. They were discussing their current situation and their future plans. Prior to the operation, Naruto had drawn an extra-large protection seal around the war camp, which was now filled to the edges with dozens of large tents housing the refugees. Naruto hoped that he would be able to provide them with a permanent shelter soon. If everything went according to plan, that would even be possible within a week. Suddenly Naruto became beet red and Hinata simply fell over, having fainted. Naruto created a shadow clone and picked up the unconscious girl. Then he gave the others an apologetic grin and rubbed the back of his head. I am really sorry, but something important has come up. I'll leave this shadow clone to take over for me. He simply went out of the tent without waiting for a reply, carrying Hinata. In the evening of the same day, Kakashi Hatake, elite jounin, arrived at his regular place to eat. Hello, I am. One miso please. He wasn't exactly sure why he had taken to going to Naruto's old favorite place. Maybe it was because he wanted to convince the girl that it was justified, what they had done and wanted to do to Naruto. But maybe the real reason was that he needed to convince himself of that fact. The girl glared at him like always, but started preparing the ramen anyway. When she was done, she handed him the bowl with a strange glint in her eyes. Kakashi was alert immediately. He sniffed the noodles to check for poison, and after that didn't produce anything, he used a special tincture on a small drop of the ramen broth, which would turn red if it contained poison. It didn't. He shrugged. He thought he had just been paranoid. So he dug in and swallowed a big amount of noodles at once and immediately regretted his decision. Something very spicy had been mixed into the ramen, and Kakashi was rolling on the floor clutching his burning mouth. And he heard laughter, somehow familiar sounding one at that. Kakashi-sensei, you always fall for the simplest pranks. Kakashi froze, the hellfire burning in his mouth and throat forgotten. He got up and stared at the girl. Naruto? A puff of smoke later Naruto was standing in front of him. What are you doing here? I will have to arrest you now. I am just a shadow clone sensei. This time Naruto had made sure to put as much hate into the honorific as he could muster. And I needed to get some people out of this village. Kakashi stared at him. The Ikarakas had fled the village, this much was clear. This time they will catch you, Naruto. You won't be able to escape like last time, however you did it. But sensei, you already saw how I escaped last time. Kakashi had seen something which disturbed him greatly during the assassination attempt, but hadn't been able to believe his own eyes. Hiration. Yes, my father's technique. You are lying. You really are one with the fox. Evil trickster, Naruto shrugged. Somehow he didn't mind Kakashi hating him. He had been devastated at first, but after the beating the man had given him, Naruto was not keen on making up with him. I don't care what you think, but I can say that you are a bad ninja if you are unable to look underneath enough to see something as simple and clear as that. But I really want to know, what happened after I attacked Danzo? How did the bastard survive? Stop insulting an honorable village elder. And Danzo reappeared out of thin air, a few seconds after his corpse had vanished. You must have been under a genjutsu. No, I definitely felt the guy's chakra while pushing my Rinnegan through him. No genjutsu can imitate that, and you saying he reappeared out of thin air means you were under this genjutsu too, even though you had your Sharingan active. This is really strange. By the way, that honorable village elder is brainwashing the Hokage somehow. Kakashi was taken aback. The boy had matured mentally, analyzing the situation so well. He was wondering if there was any truth to Danzo manipulating the Hokage. One day later, the council was discussing the consequences of the kidnapping of several children from the root training facilities when the door opened and a certain older banker entered the room. Honored council, Lady Hokage, I am sorry to intrude on your meeting, but I have important news. The council got a bit nervous since last time the man's news had been really unpleasant. The man sent a nervous glance towards the clan heads, specifically to the heads of 4 particular clans. I have to inform you that since yesterday, the Nara, Yamanaka, Akimichi and Aburame clans are no longer official clans of Konoha, since they extracted their clans' fortunes and returned the ownership of their compounds to the village. Everyone on the council turned towards the specific clan heads with questioning glances. The Nara clan head Shikaku spoke up. You really are a bunch of idiots. I mean, I had hoped it would take some time for you to figure it out, to allow me to get everyone away from Konoha. But I never dreamed it would take you this long, let alone allow me to be here. Unfortunately, we are all out of chakra, or we would have tried to kill that Hokage manipulating asshole Danzo again. Well, there's nothing we can do about that now. See ya. And then the 4 clan heads vanished in puffs of smoke. A while after the meeting, Danzo Shimura was livid. After the failed assassination attempt, he had prepared a list of demands for Naruto to agree to for the girl's safety. He had been sure that he would be able to control the boy's further actions through her. But now the boy had really pissed him off by stealing his newest soldiers and even 4 clans away. Danzo's retribution would have to be absolutely brutal. He prepared 2 sets of orders, one for the Hyuga clan to activate the caged bird seal of the former heiress Hinata, and the other was a mission for his loyal pawn Sai. A week later Sai arrived in Iwa, his precious cargo well secured. After speaking to several officials, he finally found himself in the office of the Tsuchikage. He bowed to the man. Normally Sai would anger everyone he met, just to gauge their reactions, but he couldn't afford to do this here. This was an important diplomatic mission. Who are you and why did you need to see me? I was under the impression that the Leaf's ambassador would be responsible for anything regarding the relations between our villages. Lord Tsuchikage, I am Sai and I was sent here by the Hokage to tell you an SS rank secret. We heard news that you recently formed a non-aggression pact with a certain warlord. The Hokage believes that this treaty was signed under false pretenses. What do you mean? Naruto Uzumaki's full name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. He is the son of Konoha's Yellow Flash, the 4th Hokage. Can you back up this claim? Of course. Smiling Sai took out a scroll from his pocket and handed it to one of the umbus standing next to him, who brought it towards the Tsuchikage. This is his birth certificate. Anoki looked the document over. Everything was in order. The signet of the 3rd Hokage verified its authenticity. Very well, I thank you for your services, Sai. But I have one more question. Why now? I beg your pardon, Lord Tsuchikage? I am sure the Leaf knew for some time about Naruto being the famed warlord of the West. So why act now exactly? Has he angered the Leaf? Anoki had heard from spies that something had happened in the Leaf village, but the reports were still vague and he wanted to know what the boy had done. Nothing has happened, Lord Tsuchikage. We were simply concerned that you were tricked when making the treaty. You are lying. I know something happened, but just not what exactly. Tell me. Naruto kidnapped multiple people from the Leaf village, most of them civilians. This was no lie. Since the clans were basically large families, the amount of young children, retired shinobi and housewives in them was higher than the amount of active shinobi. He must have kidnapped quite important people to provoke such a reaction from the leaf. I mean, this is information I wouldn't give up lightly. Sai remained silent. Well, I guess if that was all you had to say, we are finished now. Sai smiled and nodded. Lord Tsuchikage, if you would please return the document to my care. It holds quite a value for Konoha. The old man shook his head. I am sorry, but I have to return this to its rightful owner. Sai became nervous. What do you mean? Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze has the right to have this. It will make things much easier if he doesn't have to rely on the leaf to prove his parentage when making a new treaty. Sai didn't like what was happening. The mission was clearly a failure. But he just kept smiling. The Hokage won't be happy about this. Anoki shrugged. He didn't really mind pissing off Konoha, since he never overstepped the boundaries of their existing treaties. After Sai had left, Anoki contemplated the impact of what had happened. With a little luck, the situation between Konoha and the warlord would escalate further after whatever the boy had done. Anoki congratulated himself for the decision to stay out of this, and watched the things to come from the sidelines. One day after the clans escaped Konoha, Naruto was standing in front of his captains, the clan heads, some of his troops and a lot of the refugees, including all of his present old friends and classmates, and he loved it. Being the center of all attention was something he reveled in. Close behind him stood Hinata, being a bit nervous, after Naruto had dragged her onto the small podium. Everyone. I am really happy to stand before you all. When I first made my journey to the west, I was sure I would return to Konoha one day and be Hokage there. But now, after everything that happened, the new friends I found here and the old ones that joined me, I am determined to make this place my home. Of course, the tents you are all living in right now won't do for much longer. Just a few kilometers to the west from here lies the old capital of the long-gone Western Empire. Constant fights about dominance over the city have left it in shambles. Right now it has been abandoned by all military powers, since it lies in the center between all three remaining factions in this war. That means taking the city is a risk, because our enemies are only waiting for one of the others to make a move on it. But this is a risk I am willing to take, because I know that with all of you, we will easily be able to beat them back. We will use the location of the city to our advantage and finally unite the West again. All of Naruto's soldiers cheered at this. In the city we will be able to find a permanent shelter for everyone here and maybe a new home. I know that many of you hope to be able to return to the Leaf Village soon when Danzo is gone, and I promise that I will do everything in my power to help rid Konoha of his dominance and enable you to return home. But I would welcome everyone who decides to stay here in these lands with me and help me unite and protect them. There was a lot of cheering from all of his soldiers and appreciating murmurs and a few cheers from the refugees. There is one more thing we need to inform the refugees about, since they would find it out soon enough anyway. Naruto looked towards Hinata, who was hiding her head between her shoulders, looking to the ground and shuffling her feet slightly. She was obviously unable to make the announcement herself. Naruto sighed. I am no longer the host of the nine-tailed fox. Show them Hinata. Naruto stepped behind her, and she became even more nervous than before. Hinata started drawing on the fox's power, and coated her body in a cloak of red demonic chakra. Suddenly the chakra seemed to take the form of a smiling fox head, and all the refugees stared at her in a mix of awe and fear. Hinata let the cloak dissipate again, and quickly hid behind Naruto from the stairs. After a quick glance at the girl, who tried to get away from the attention, Naruto continued. We were hiding this fact in the elemental nations to protect Hinata from the Akatsuki. But here everyone knew about Fu and myself being Jinchuriki already, and with the training we have Hinata do, she wouldn't be able to hide this fact anyway. Nevertheless, I ask you to be extremely careful about telling these things to outsiders. One more thing. Since my escape from Konoha, I have been on good terms with the fox. I don't want you to suddenly think of him as a good guy. Just know that some things were not under his control back when he attacked the leaf. When Naruto stepped down from the podium, he contemplated his position. The morale among the refugees was quite bad. This was to be expected, even though everyone agreed to the plan to leave the village. Only a select few had been happy about it. It had been a necessity to protect the children of the clans, but it still was a move that conflicted heavily with the shinobi's sense of duty, and they still saw the leaf as their real home. Naruto once again swore to himself to free the leaf to enable the clans to return. Even though he would of course prefer it if his friends stayed with him. Something was irritating Shino. There was a certain smell in the air that drew him in and excited him. And he wasn't the only one affected. His hive was going absolutely crazy. It smelled like Hive Queen. Even with his closeness to insects, this was a very strange thought for the Abirame. He knew quite well that such concepts didn't apply to humans. He followed the smell through the army camp to the point where it was really strong and someone was blocking his path. Standing before him was a girl, about his age, with green hair. Shino leaned closer to her and sniffed. He was now sure the smell came from her. The girl furrowed her brow and regarded him critically. You smell really good. Slap! And the girl stormed off, leaving Shino with a swelling cheek. Later that day, Naruto was overlooking the once great city from a small part of the city walls. Most of the wall was still intact, but every few hundred meters there were big holes in it. With Naruto were a dozen of his most trusted ninja. Hinata, can you scan the city and tell us what to expect? The girl nodded and activated her Byakugan. I can't find any enemy soldiers or ninja. They must all have left the city. Most of the civilians have weapons in their homes, but I think it is to protect themselves from looters. There are several deserted barracks and buildings that could have been clan compounds. They are mostly intact, but littered with traps. A lot of the exploding powder used in this regions is utilized in those, most likely because they don't know how to create explosion tags. Nevertheless, there is so much of it that those explosions could easily destroy the buildings and kill our shinobi. We have to be very careful about that. Naruto nodded. This was good news. He had wondered if his enemies might destroy any buildings he could use, but instead they had planned to thin out his numbers in addition to that. Unfortunately for them, he was sure that his ninja were capable of disarming any trap there might be, especially with help from a Hyuga. Alright Hinata, pick yourself 5 helpers and start disarming those traps. Kentaro, go back to the camp and order everyone to come here. We don't have to be worried about any attacks right now. The captain nodded and immediately went on his way. Shikamaru and the rest of you are with me. We will find out if this place has still some kind of administration and start setting up our own. One day later, Naruto had taken residence in the old town hall of the city. The building's roof needed repairs, there was no flowing water and there was a lot of dirt and debris, especially on the lower floors. But all of the other empty buildings had similar problems, and the view from the mayor's office reminded him of the Hokage Tower. Shikamaru was just making a report. The team disarming the traps has cleared most of the buildings and the explosives are being moved to a guarded building in the outskirts of the city. Our 4 clans have each claimed one of the abandoned compounds as their new homes. The buildings need a lot of work, but we will handle it. Your soldiers are stationed in one of the 3 barracks. That means we have still a lot of free space. I was thinking of ordering most of my spread out units here, because I would expect our enemies to attack here, and even if they don't, this central position will enable us to react quickly. That could be a problem. There is hardly any food and winter is coming soon. It seems whoever held the city before didn't even leave enough to feed the civilians. I will handle that. I can obtain food from the other cities and villages I hold. Using my teleportation seals, that will be no problem. Shikamaru nodded. Good, then that is taken care of. As you ordered, we sent scouts in both our enemies' directions. The Southern Alliance is mobilizing and our scouts think they will be upon us in 2 weeks. They have the most territory and the biggest army at the moment, but their alliance is still kind of shaky. Yeah, I have dealt with those kinds of enemies before. Using our ninjas, we should be able to pick them apart well enough. We can turn them against each other through misinformation and fake attacks. If possible, I would prefer to prevent any larger battles and make many of those warlords take our side by diplomacy and, if anyone agrees to it, personal combat. To find ways to break them apart, I will need a report on the clan's active ninja strengths, mission experiences, and preferred team compositions. Yes, I can prepare that together with my father and the other clan heads. Good, if you could have that by tomorrow, we can then begin to plan missions for the teams. Shikamaru nodded. Concerning the Northern Alliance, there is very interesting news. Warlord Tokugawa Oza killed most of the other warlords in a coup last week and made the rest of them swear loyalty to him. He has claimed the title of emperor. He will need a few months to organize his forces, but when he is done with that, he could be a formidable foe. And there are rumors that he has had ninja training. That sounds like we should deal with him now that he is weak. But I fear we would stretch ourselves too thin when fighting both of those factions at the same time. Troublesome, but I agree. Hinata entered the room, looking really tired. We are done. We have disarmed all the traps and secured the explosives. She shuffled towards a free chair and slumped down in it. Great work, Hinata. She gave him a tired smile and Shikamaru continued his report. Coming back to our situation here. Apart from food, our main problems are that the whole littered city walls offer almost no protection and that there is no running water. I think we could fix the old water distribution system in a week or so if we concentrate almost all our attention to it. But the walls will take months of work. Alright, I was trying to rejuvenate my chakra since spending almost all of it in Konoha. But I am good enough now. I will use my pads and shadow clones to get food here, draw a basic protection seal around the city and start fixing the walls. Maybe I could even spend some chakra to teleport 1 or 2 of my remaining samurai units here. Can you have everyone available work on restoring the water distribution system and prepare your report on our ninja as we discussed? Shikamaru nodded. You said your pads and clones would do all those things. What are you up to? Naruto rubbed the back of his head and grinned. Well, you see, he activated his Rinnegan, and with a flick from his hand he used his powers to pull Hinata from her chair into his lap. During the short flight, the startled girl let out a small eep. Once Hinata was seated atop Naruto, he put his arms around her, and she blushed furiously. I was hoping to be able to spend some time with my girlfriend. Shikamaru sighed. Damn, if I could have clones do all my work, I could go cloud watching all day. The afternoon sun was shining into a room with a single bed. On the bed lay a blonde girl and there was a drip next to her, feeding her artificially. Suddenly the girl's eyes shot open and she stared into the room. Then she grabbed her head and started screaming. 1 minute later Inoichi stormed into the room. Ino? Girl, are you alright? She was still grabbing her head with a pain-filled expression on her face. My head hurts. Inoichi sat down beside her and Ino grabbed onto her father and buried her head into his chest. After a while she felt slightly better. Dad? Yes, princess? Danzo used the Sharingan. Under normal circumstances, this would have caused quite a reaction from the veteran shinobi. But right now he was just happy that his daughter was fine. He simply continued to hold her. There was one piercing red eye looking at me from inside Lady Tsunade's mind. And somehow it seemed to hold me in place, preventing me from doing anything. She stopped. Something told her that she had been unconscious longer than a few hours. A lot longer. How long was I out? Her father sighed. Too long. About 2 months. The girl laid her head on his chest sideways and looked out of the window. Dad? Where are we? Several days later, Jinsuke Hideako, messenger of warlord Meizuo Dashi, was in a terrible position. He was chained to the wall in the dungeon of another warlord. The two warlords were allies in the Southern Alliance, but Jinsuke had acted suspiciously when trying to avoid the soldiers of the local warlord Hidegashi while traveling through his domain. This fact had been reported to Hidegashi, and after continuous observation had revealed that the messenger acted the same way all the way through Hidegashi's territory. He had finally decided to capture Jinsuke. The door to Jinsuke's cell opened, and in strode Hidegashi with one of his bodyguards and someone who looked like the very cliché of a jailer and torturer, with a black cloth mask covering his head and several tongs, knives and other torture instruments on his belt. The warlord held up an unfolded letter with the broken seal of Jinsuke's lord. Tell me everything you know about this and that asshole Odashi. Jinsuke remained silent and let his head hang low. While he didn't act very defiant, he seemed unwilling to betray his lord. Hidegashi gestured to the torturer next to him. The man strode forward, grabbed one of Jinsuke's confined hands and broke one of his fingers. The torture continued for a while until the messenger finally broke down. Please stop. I'll tell you everything. His tormentor stepped away from him to allow him to start talking. My lord ordered me to deliver this letter, and the others to a few of his allies. He told me this was a matter of absolute importance, and that these letters were not to fall into foreign hands. I am only a lowly messenger. I do not know about my lord's plans, honorable warlord. Odashi gave you the letters himself? Yes, Lord Hidegashi. Hidegashi nodded. It was to be expected that the messenger didn't know the contents of the letters, but it was important to know that Meizuo Dashi had sent them himself, and that the whole thing wasn't just a setup. He decided to tell the messenger what this correspondence entailed. Your lord plotted against his own allies and wanted to pull a similar stunt as happened in the Northern Alliance. He planned to kill me and many of the other warlords and divide the lands among his allies. He wanted to do that right before the attack on that Uzumaki upstart, when we least expected it. Jinsuke had a look of shock on his face as he heard those things. This meant he was now in the hands of an enemy of his lord, and almost none of the warlords showed any mercy to their enemy's subordinates. Hidegashi nodded to his bodyguard, who drew his sword and rammed it into Jinsuke's chest. The messenger suddenly had an expression of absolute surprise and confusion on his face, but then the light left his eyes and he was dead. Only a few hundred meters away from the warlord's castle, Inoichi Yamanaka awoke. He shook off the terrible feelings of torture, being close to death and condemning a man to such a fate. His temporary teammates Shino and Anko were at his side immediately. Did you succeed? Inoichi nodded, still tired from his long-time mind transfer jutsu. I think I played my part well. They didn't suspect a thing. Then those two warlords will be fighting each other soon. The Aburame was quite pleased with the results of this mission. It was not honorable, and Jinsuke had been an innocent messenger. He had just served the wrong man. But if they fought the alliance head-on, a whole lot more people would die, several ninja from Konoha included without a doubt. People like Jinsuke were unfortunate sacrifices to save a lot of lives. Most of all those of Naruto's men, of course. This was so boring and stupid. Why did I have to be on this stupid team again? Anko wasn't quite as happy as the Shino. She had been itching for a fight. Anko-san, your knowledge on how to fake that documents was invaluable, while my tracking abilities proved useful to find a suitable target. I think this team was selected well, and our success is proof of that. Anko scoffed but remained silent. The bug boy did have a point. Inoichi spoke up. Alright, let's pack up and head home. Ino was only awake for one day when I had to leave, and I need to see that she is doing well. The clan head wondered for a brief second for how long he would call the still foreign city home, but then immediately started the preparations for their travel. Hinata was just resting a bit, after she had trained water jutsu, her main elemental affinity, with a few clones for hours. Vixen? Yes, Kurama-san? I'm bored. This confused Hinata. She had talked with Naruto about the fox a lot, and he never said anything about him needing to be entertained. What did you do when you were bored, while being sealed inside of Naruto-kun? Well, I either insulted him, or made fun of him. And often he entertained me by just being the loudmouth idiot he is. Hinata knew the fox well enough at this point to make out the hidden meaning. You miss him? I never said that, she sighed. I don't think I can be as entertaining as Naruto-kun. Maybe we could find something else for you to do. Hey, you could let me out and allow me destroy a few cities. Hinata actually liked the part about letting him out. Having a bit of privacy from time to time was something she definitely missed. The destroying a few cities part wouldn't do, of course. Maybe we could find a way to let you out partially? Like I give you control over a shadow clone of mine? I like that idea. The seal is built upon the host's will to hold me in check. Maybe you could focus on letting my mind through, while creating a shadow clone? Hinata did as she was told, and after a few tries, instead of another Hinata there stood a red-furred fox with 9 tails. He was about waist high and had only about as much chakra as a normal shadow clone, but Kurama was happy enough with being outside. He guess who's back everyone. Hinata gave the fox a while to get accustomed to his new body before she put her fingers into a hand sign. Kai! And the fox clone vanished. What was that for? I am sorry Kurama-san, but I needed to see what would happen with the clone's memories, since it is made from both your and my chakra. I actually really like this. I know what your clone saw, heard, smelled and felt, but I can't remember what it was thinking. Kurama immediately understood why this was a good thing to Hinata. He wouldn't be able to do anything without her knowing it. Damn. I guess you wouldn't let me out again if I decided to eat some people? Hinata knew the fox was teasing her for the most part. No, oh well, at least I'll be able to stretch my legs a bit. Fu was wandering through the streets of the old capital. She was really angry at herself because she had left her wallet at her temporary home and now she would have to get it before trying out that new ramen stand. After spending so much time together with Naruto, hearing him talk with glowing eyes about the food of the gods and developing a liking to the noodle dish herself, it was really annoying to delay tasting what Naruto called the best ramen in the world. As she was fuming to herself, she suddenly saw a familiar face. Hey creepy sunglasses guy. Shino had just returned from his mission and was on his way to the Aburame's new compound. He turned towards her, looking completely indifferent as always. How about you treat me for lunch for acting as strange as you did the other day? Shino thought about that. He knew that the girl was called Fu and that she was the host for the seven-tailed beetle. He had also found out that randomly sniffing on girls was not considered socially acceptable, so he should apologize for doing that. It was probably not logical to get involved with a being that, if cut loose, would be able to level the whole city. But that seems acceptable. Danzo's most reliable soldier had returned from his latest mission, and they were discussing the events during the assassination attempt. From what you told me, that must have been the Rinnegan. What does it do, Jiraiya? A couple of things. It was the ocular power of the Sage of the Six Paths after all, and is considered to be the strongest dojutsu of all. The white-haired sage was about to continue, but Danzo cut him off. Can you prepare a report with the details? Of course. Good, we will need that knowledge. The boy will most likely be surrounded by enemies soon, when Sai finishes his mission and IWA turns against him. But I want to be the one responsible for his death. What he did to Konoha is inexcusable. Very well. Shall I carry out the assassination myself then? Danzo thought about this. This was his strongest and most reliable man. But silent assassinations were not really his thing, and Naruto was surrounded by a whole army and a lot of ninja. And there was a risk if Jiraiya fell into Naruto's hands. No, Sai will do it eventually, after the boy's little country has become a single war zone. I need you for something else. Danzo stopped for a second, unsure if he did the right thing. But Naruto's actions had weakened the leaf and the fire daimyo had been furious. He needed to mend the damage fast. I need you to start negotiations with an old accomplice of mine and friend of yours. It had been over 3 months since the clans arrived in the west when there was a small attack on Suna by just 2 people, Sasori of the Red Sands and Deidara. They obviously wanted to capture the host of the one-tailed tanuki, Gaara. Unfortunately for the 2 Akatsuki members, Naruto's Preta Path was just in a meeting about their trade agreements with the Kazekage, and they were driven off by the combined efforts of the 2 young men. There was some damage done to several buildings by Deidara's explosives and several sand shinobi were killed, most of them by a traitor among the Suna shinobi. But overall the village hidden in the sand came out of the incident relatively unscathed. A few days later someone else arrived in Suna and now Naruto was anxiously awaiting her arrival in his office. Through his shared vision Naruto saw how the Preta Path and his companion arrived in the small teleportation circle just outside his office. The path teleported away again to return to Suna to continue negotiations and make sure that the Akatsuki hadn't returned. But the other person opened the doors to Naruto's office and stepped in. Shizune-san. Naruto flew at the woman and captured her in a hug. After they had greeted each other for the first time in years, Shizune suddenly got quite a bit paler and pointed towards a human-sized red fox with 9 tails sleeping peacefully to the left of Naruto's desk. Naruto is at the QB? Yeah, well, at least a shadow clone controlled by him. Don't worry, he is harmless. Harmless. What do you think will happen if the other villagers know you have left him out? Well, in a way at least. Oh, they know. The first days he was out, he spent his time chasing terrified ninja through the streets. It was quite funny actually. They would run away from him until they were exhausted and then face him in total desperation, only to realize that they could best him easily. That means they hate him even more now. Actually being able to kill him quite often seems to have gotten rid of a lot of the tension. They certainly don't like him, but they don't hate him as much as they used to. Shizune nodded. She wondered if she would ever get used to seeing the fox run around seemingly free. How come you are here, Shizune? What happened? Well, you see, I was traveling to find new medical methods to treat people under the influence of mind-influencing jutsu. I knew something was wrong once Tsunade had you arrested, but no one listened to me, because she acted normally otherwise. She even allowed me to examine her and try to treat her, but there was nothing I could do with my medical jutsu. And she was opposed to being examined by a Yamanaka. I hope we can find a way to help her soon. Yes, but to do that we need to find out what caused this in the first place. Lady Tsunade showed certain symptoms of having been under the influence of a Yamanaka mind transfer jutsu. But those only have a temporary effect. In fact, none of the Yamanaka techniques permanently change the mind of their target. I guess the old hawk must have secretly recruited someone from that clan a while ago. Anyway, we found out that Danzo used the Sharingan, thanks to Ino trying to enter Tsunade Bachan's mind. He has one implanted into his right eye, that is usually covered by bandages. Shikamaru and his dad believe that it must be one of the eyes of one Shursui Uchiha, who was known for his ability to control people. Then that's how they did it. Lady Tsunade is too experienced to simply keep staring into a Sharingan eye. They must have surprised her with the mind transfer jutsu instead to make that happen. Naruto nodded. That is good news actually, because it looks like it isn't as easy for Danzo to control someone as it seemed first. What are you going to do now, Shizune? She sighed. Well, I didn't have any luck in finding anything that could help Tsunade-sama, and I don't know what Danzo would do if I return. Why don't you stay here with us until we have found a way to free Tsunade Bachan? I could really use your help as the leader of my medical corps. Give me a while to think about that, Naruto. Of course, Shizune. A few days later, the medic told Naruto that she had decided to stay and help improve his medic corps. 2 weeks later, it had been 4 months since the clans arrived in the west. The Southern Alliance, which had opposed Naruto, collapsed completely after Naruto's ninja had sown mistrust between its warlords. One after another, each warlord was either convinced to join Naruto, or was disposed of in one way or another. Now all of the Alliance's lands and the remaining soldiers were under Naruto's control. But the lands were still unsafe and riddled with countless bandit groups, and there was still unrest in many regions, a lot of which was caused by Naruto's ninja missions themselves. And so Naruto had dispatched most of his regular troops to deal with those problems. But that meant only a fraction of Naruto's forces remained at the new capital, and now the northern warlord Tokugawa Oza was marching towards the city with his army and was expected to arrive in only 2 days. As things stood, Naruto would have to face the 50,000-men-strong army with only about 10,000 of his own soldiers. Since his scouts had reported the approaching army too late, and his remaining units were very spread out among the country, it didn't make sense for Naruto to spend his now very valuable chakra on teleporting more soldiers to the capital. Luckily, at least all of Naruto's ninja were available. Even though the numbers were this different, the morale among Naruto's troops was not bad, because they knew that with the ninja clans and Naruto, Fu and Hinata especially, they had fighters that could easily handle a great amount of enemies. Naruto was on a training field, trying to train for the upcoming battle, without actually using the chakra for the techniques. When he saw Hinata marching towards him, "Naruto, we need to talk." Naruto blinked. Hinata was awfully serious. He nodded to signal her to say whatever she wanted to say. "I talked with Shikamaru and I think he is right. We should fight this battle." Naruto groaned. "Hinata, as I told Shikamaru already, this won't be necessary. I am absolutely certain that I can overload the gravitational powers of my Rinnegan in a way that I can take out Oza's entire army. This may harm me somewhat, but I am tough, and me getting hurt is surely better than hundreds, or even thousands of my soldiers dying in battle." "No, Naruto, it isn't, that is the point. You have avoided all larger battles. You never led more than a few hundred men into combat, nothing that could be called leading an army. If you want people to accept you as their leader and not just fear your power, you have to prove that you can do just that. If you want other nations to respect the might of your army and not see you as the single obstacle they have to overcome to conquer your nation, then you need to fight this battle. Otherwise your nation might be very short-lived. And then you will have not saved anyone by doing this alone. Besides, completely relying on that technique is a stupid risk in itself. Hinata, all this time I have tried to shed as little blood as possible. And now you are trying to talk me into the one approach of the situation, which will most likely get more people killed than any other." He lowered his head a bit. "And I don't want to risk your life or that of my friends if I can help it." Usually he didn't have such qualms, as he would always believe his friends to pull through. But the upcoming battle worried him more than he liked to admit, especially since with him being the undisputed leader, everyone else's lives were in his hands. "Naruto, you will have to trust in us. There is no way that you can always protect us from danger, we are ninja after all." She smiled at him. "And believe me if I tell you that I will do anything to make sure either of us dies in that battle, there is too much I have to live for." Naruto smiled slightly and nodded. "Let's talk with Shikamaru and the others about our strategy, and try everything to minimize our losses. Maybe we can even find a way to capture as many of our enemies as we can and not kill them." Somehow this managed to cheer Naruto up considerably. "Yes. You are right, Hinata. We will make sure to save as many lives as possible." Naruto was standing among his army, atop a hill just 1 hour outside of the capital. They had decided to meet the enemy away from the city to protect it, and its people from harm, and because fighting from the city walls wouldn't really have helped them. Now they would be able to fight downhill, with the morning sun shining into their enemies' eyes even. Naruto wondered if Oza was confident enough to attack them under these conditions. He hoped he would be. The plains in front of their hill were slowly being filled by Oza's approaching army. It was an impressive sight, the sheer amount of soldiers with their weapons, armor and banners glowing in the morning light. Naruto let his gaze wander over his own, less impressive-looking army. The bulk of his soldiers consisted of 10 of his samurai battalions. Naruto had assigned his captains to lead the units. Behind the lines of samurai, Naruto's ninjas stood at the ready. The Nara clan had taken the left flank, while the Aburame covered the right. The center was going to be supported by the members of the Akimichi and Yamanaka clan. They had developed several strategies to incapacitate a lot of enemies, but of course showing any hesitation beyond those plans would only endanger themselves. Casualties were inevitable. Before Naruto stood Hinata, Fu Anko, Shizen, the Sand siblings and both generations of the Ino Shikacho formation. The plan was that Temari would use her wind attacks to protect their men from projectiles, Gaara would both use his sand defensively and to trap a lot of enemies. Shizen and Anko would use bombs with sleeping gas they had developed to incapacitate groups of enemies, and Ino, Shikamaru and Choji would try to immobilize and take control of Oza himself, to maybe end the battle prematurely. The rest of them would support Naruto's units wherever needed. To Naruto's relief, they saw their enemies advancing towards them immediately after they had taken formation in front of the hill, and they did not wait for a better chance to engage. He walked through the lines of his samurai with 4 of his paths and Hinata by his side. The barrier and healing path stayed in the back, one to help protect his men from projectiles and jutsu and the other to support the medic corps. When he was in front of his soldiers' lines, Naruto turned around to face them. Everyone. After months of hard work, we now have the chance to reach our dream. Only one battle and the West will finally be united again, and there will be peace. I ask every one of you to lend me your strength to reach that goal, and I know that with your combined power we cannot fail. For unity and peace. The call was repeated by all of Naruto's 10,000 soldiers, but the giant roar didn't impress Oza's men and they continued their advance. When their first enemies were only a few hundred meters away, Naruto went through a few hand signs and activated several explosive tags they had planted before the battle. The explosions destroyed the covers of several large holes Naruto had created beforehand using Earth style. Dozens of enemies had the ground crumble under their feet, leaving them trapped in the several meter deep holes. Naruto decided to use deadly force now to try and soften the enemies' onrush. He went through several hand signs again and blew multiple large fireballs at their enemies, each causing an explosion which killed or severely burned multiple enemies. Then the sky darkened when thousands of arrows flew towards his men everywhere. He saw several purple barriers created by his protection path stop a large chunk of them, and another part was blown away by a wind jutsu courtesy of Temari. Naruto did a wind jutsu of his own to stop another group of arrows that would have made it through otherwise. He then gave a signal and his ninja began using their own ranged weapons, raining death upon their enemies with kunai and shuriken. But that didn't stop them. The spearhead was only about 100 meters away from Naruto's position now. Naruto briefly glanced at Hinata and found her with her eyes closed. He knew exactly what she was doing. Hinata's mindscape. Hinata appeared before the giant cage of the fox. Hello Vixen. Hello Kurama-san. I need your power, please. Yes, but be careful, don't open the seal too far. Your body still can't handle as much of my chakra as I would like. She nodded, pulled up her shirt, then went through a few hand signs and had her fingertips glowing with blue chakra. The seal on her stomach appeared, she put her glowing fingers onto it, and turned them by 1/8 of a circle, opening the seal by the same amount. Hinata started to glow in a soft yellow light, and she could feel a lot of the Kyuubi's chakra running through her system. The fox grinned one of his toothy grins. Give them hell, girl. Can you set me free too, please? I may not be able to do much with just the chakra of one shadow clone, but I would really like to rip out just a few throats. Hinata shuddered inwardly. The fox definitely meant exactly what he said this time. Hinata opened her eyes in the real world, quickly created a clone for Kurama and stormed right towards the incoming enemies. She used the fox's chakra to create additional limbs and used them, her Byakugan and her gentle fist style in combination to tear through the enemy lines. While it was hard enough to stand against the Hyuga in close combat normally, it was a total nightmare against one who could create additional limbs that were able to stretch and bend very far. Hinata usually only needed a single touch to either incapacitate or kill an enemy. At the same time Naruto was fighting as well, surrounded by his paths. So far he tried to conserve his chakra and he hardly used any techniques. He only fired off one more flame jutsu to deal with an especially pesky flock of enemies, but apart from that he used basic taijutsu. He risked a small glance towards Hinata and saw her weaving through the enemy's lines in a spectacular fashion. Behind her followed the Kurama clone, watching out for any dangers to Hinata and for easy targets for himself. Steadily a large amount of enemies gathered around Hinata and Naruto, keen on taking them out. Then metal canisters were thrown into the fray by Naruto's soldiers and there was a shout which Naruto identified to be the voice of Shizen. He quickly teleported towards Hinata, or rather the Horatian seal she was carrying, grabbed her and then teleported back behind his soldiers' lines. Only seconds later the metal canisters burst open into large clouds of sleeping gas, covering the whole area in front of Naruto's center. Temari used a wind jutsu to blow the gas away from their men and towards their opponents, revealing hundreds of incapacitated enemies where the gas receded. Naruto's paths and the Kyuubi clone had been caught as well and could be seen lying among their enemies. Naruto recreated his lost paths and used the safety behind the lines of his soldiers to take a look at the overall situation. On the right flank the Aburame were absolutely wrecking their enemies, their insects draining them of energy and leaving them unconscious. The left flank was in more peril as the Nara could not really deal very well with a large amount of enemies, because they got exhausted quite fast if they used their techniques for taking out multiple opponents. Naruto sent Kankuro, Anko and the older Inoshikacho formation to support them. In the center things were still calm as a thick cloud of sleeping gas still divided Naruto's troops from the enemy. Behind their lines, a short distance away from Naruto, his healing path, Shizen and the rest of his medic corps were busy trying to save or patch up any wounded soldiers. Again a volley of arrows filled the air and again it was stopped by the combined efforts of Temari and the protection path with a little help from Gaara's sand this time.